Morning, Dr. Kumud. Good morning, everybody.
Who is this?
Shivashankar Babu.
Okay.
Yeah, we are about to start, Babu. Just you.
Yeah, I'll be on mute.
Right.
And in case any issues, I can start with the PowerPoint.
Yeah, thank you. We took a trial. So far, so good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Kishore. You can start.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of Tamil Heritage Trust's Indology Festival 2022. Before we start today's event, I would like to give a brief introduction of Tamil Heritage Trust and its activities. Tamil Heritage Trust is a not-for-profit, volunteer-driven organization based in Chennai. The objective of Tamil Heritage is to sensitize the general public and to help spread the awareness and improve the awareness of India's rich cultural heritage. Towards this, we have been conducting several programs and several events through which we meet our objective. We do this through our monthly heritage talks that offer a platform for both enthusiasts and experts to share with the general public about various facets of Indian heritage, such as art, architecture, sculpture, literature, music, dance, and so on. We also conduct intense thematic seminars called Pechi Kacheri, which is centered around a central topic, where we conduct a series of lectures around a theme or around a central topic. This is an annual event. We have conducted nearly 10 of these Pechi Kacheris, themed around Pallavas, Pandyas, Orissa, and so on. We also engage with the general public to conduct intense heritage workshops. These workshops are on temple appreciation, museum appreciation, Pallava Grantha Lipi, and so on. Every year, typically in the month of January, around 40-45 of us come together and we select a heritage site in within India, but before visiting there, we spend 3 to 4 months together preparing about the site, preparing about the places that we are visiting, doing some kind of research and sharing that information within the group. This is what we call our site seminar, again an annual event. Tamil Heritage Trust also recognizes individuals who make a significant contribution in the field of Indian heritage. We do this through the THT Professor S. Swaminathan Heritage Award that was instituted in the year 2020. We continue to do that every year. We also engage with teachers, predominantly in Tamil Nadu, through a program called Alamar Avai, Teachers for Heritage, where we train teachers on various aspects of temple art and heritage so that they can perhaps do a better job of taking this to their schools, their students, and so on. This year, Tamil Heritage Trust is co-hosting the V. Venkaya Epigraphy Award. The award is being instituted by Srimati Sunita Madhavan, who is the great-granddaughter of V. Venkaya. V. Venkaya was the first Indian epigraphist to the government of India. The award is meant to recognize individuals who have contributed significantly in the field of epigraphy. This could either be towards discovery of unrecorded inscriptions, reinterpretation of inscriptions, or cascading or disseminating knowledge that is contained in these inscriptions. The nomination window is still open. The details of this award is on our website, www.tamilheritage.in. If you would like to nominate yourself, or if you would like to nominate an individual who is doing significant work in the field of epigraphy, the last day to do so is the 19th of June. Please go ahead and refer our website. All our programs are available on YouTube. Videos of all our lectures, all our programs that we do are available on YouTube. So if you would like to watch our programs, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Click on the bell button of Tamil Heritage Trust. That's the name of our channel, so that you can receive notifications of any future events that we would be conducting. Our first Indology Festival was conducted in 2020. This was a week-long festival where experts from not just India, but from around the world came together and delivered lectures on various aspects of Indology, like Indian mathematics, Indian prehistory, temple architecture, Chola bronzes, and so on. This was a week-long festival. And here we are in 2022 conducting our second Indology festival. In this festival, we are celebrating the early medieval period temple builders of India. We believe that this is a period that perhaps doesn't get the appreciation or the mention particularly in our education system. So we would like to take the temple builders of early medieval period in India, particularly between the 8th and 13th century. And we have invited a group of experts to deliver lectures on various dynasties and their art. On day one, we had the keynote address by Dr. Keshavan Belutat. Followed by that, we had Dr. Chitra Madhavan, who spoke about the imperial Cholas and their temples and their art. On day two, which is yesterday, Sri Sitaraman spoke about the temples of the later Pandyas and how it varied from the Pallavas and Cholas. Followed by that, we had Dr. Manjari Balerao, who spoke about the Gurjara Pratiharas and their monuments, predominantly based in central India and some parts of Rajasthan. Today is day 3. We have 4 lectures today. Today and tomorrow, we've got 4 lectures, 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening. We have 4 experts with us who are going to be delivering lectures on 4 different dynasties of the early medieval period. First up, we are happy to welcome Dr. Kumud Kanitkar. Her topic is Shilaharas, the Vamana among the dynasties. Dr. Kumud Kanitkar is an independent researcher in Indology. Her research focuses on medieval temples in Maharashtra. Her work looks beyond the aesthetic quality of sculptural art, trying to understand the meaning conveyed through the sculptural scheme in an individual temple. Her book in 2013, Ambarnath Shivalaya, a monograph on the temple of Shiva at Ambernath, was awarded the Iko Hirayama Prize 2013 by the Institute of France, Paris. This was followed by a book in Marathi in 2014, Ambarnath Shivalaya, Prabandhika, Ambarnath Yetil Shiv Mandir. Her latest, a bilingual book on the Bhuleshwar temple near Yavat in Maharashtra. The book is titled Bhuleshwara Shivalaya, was released in October 2020. She has published numerous articles in research journals, presented papers at seminars, and delivered lectures on subjects such as temples in Maharashtra, temple art as a mean of non-verbal mass communication, medieval temple structures as markers of social history. Dr. Kanitkar holds a PhD in chemistry from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. She was a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Illinois, Chicago. She retired as a professor of chemistry in 2004. She has a wide range of interests. She's a numismatist and a prize-winning philatelist as well. With these few words, we would like to invite Dr. Kanitkar to deliver her lecture.
Okay, share screen. Can you see that?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. So thank you all. And I must express again what I already told Badri, that just the few lectures that I've listened to is a very humbling experience, because you realize how little you know and there's so much to be known. Anyway, so today I am going to talk about the Shilaharas, and I call them the Vamana because they are a small dynasty of temple builders, and compared to the size and the variety that is available in South India, I find that there is a difference in the approach, in the sense that emphasis is more on the iconography and the iconographic scheme and what is it there for, rather than architecture. So this is and it is important. A temple is very important for steering the society in the right direction. That has always been the case. So I say that it was the Facebook of the medieval times, because that is where a lot of exchanges took place in the medieval times. So let me, some of the quotes, some of them are, the hues, colors are different. But anyway, the point is, it does have temples hold a place of supreme importance in the socio-religious life of the period. Then you go to Romila Thapar, she has very acid words about how the kings would build magnificent temples as pretentious as the exalted titles taken by the donors. Anyway, I have also quoted a reference that D.R. Bhandarkar had mentioned in his lecture in the 19th century. In Bana's Kadambari, Queen Vilasavati is spoken of as going to the temple of Mahakala and hearing the Mahabharata read. This also is very relevant because temples do serve that purpose also, that is for the edification of the visitors. Anyway, so let us move to the Shilaharas of the North Konkan. Shilaharas, there are 5 or 6 branches. But North Konkan, I'm going to talk about because the Ambarnath temple is something definitely worth talking about. And also the Shilaharas of Kolhapur. So, North Konkan, the inscriptions and Kaneri of all the places shed light on the early kings, because there's very little epigraphic evidence and very few details about the early ones. But anyway, this is interesting because Pulla Shakti, who was a vassal of the Rashtrakutas, his name appears because it was in his territory that Kaneri was there, Krishnagiri was there. And so this was worship of the Buddha. That means this was for Buddhist, the caves that are there. And also later on also, interesting is one of the inscriptions mentions that donation from Gomin Avignakara, who hailed from Gauda Desha, from Bengal of all the places, and he made a permanent endowment, Akshaya Nivi, which would, 100 dramas, and he explained how it was to be spent, and similar thing was done a few years later. And this is the genealogy, but this is more for the history books. All I can say is that Chittaraja, Nagarjuna and Mummuni were the 3 kings, 3 brothers who ruled one after the other, associated with the Ambarnath temple. And then Apararka was another king worth noting, because he wrote Apararka Tika on Yajnavalkya Smriti, and which is still quoted in Kashmir. And actually, I was astounded when I found that Alexis Sanderson, when writing about Lakshman Ju, has one of the footnotes has Apararka's Apararka Tika. So this is what I've already said. And literary arts also, there were lots of references, but nothing concrete, except fortunately for us, there was a Champu Kavya written by Soddhala called Udayasundari Katha, which was found in one of the Jain Bhandars in Baroda. So that gives, and he had patterned it after Barna's Harshacharita. Therefore, a lot of details about the 3 brothers in whose during whose reign he was at their court. He was the court poet. Then he mentions a lot of literati of his time. None of their, some of their names also we did not know, and their works are not, they have not survived. Kolhapur Shilaharas, they ruled over what is called as Kuntala Desha, Kolhapur, Sangli, Satara, etc., and some part of Belgaum. There is influence of Kannada language, you can see that. But what is important is, just as the North Shilaharas, North Konkan Shilaharas, were quite liberal. I mean, they in their times of donations could be given to about the Kaneri caves, places like that. And in Kolhapur Shilaharas, they were great patrons of the Jaina community also. And my main contention is that although the dynasty is small, their temples, they are very well decorated, and the iconographic scheme has a purpose behind it. And I'm going to add 2 bits to mine that we were, these Shilaharas were in a territory which was invaded, and so many fragments or loose sculptures are found everywhere. And absence of evidence should not be construed as evidence of absence. That means if we have the images, even if the temples are not there, we should look at the images also. So, and this is a very important reference. I think anyone who is really interested must read this History of Sciences, Philosophy and Culture, etc., etc. It's a long article, but it traces the origin and the reason why temples were built. So I'm illustrating it with something from Atharva Shirsha, and the fact that we need both audio and visual. Therefore, the need for the images was felt, and the images were, that is why they're important. Now, this particular image is of a gold mask, pure gold mask, weighing 1.3 kilos, and all the details are there. It was found buried in a copper trunk, and it is beautiful, there is no doubt about it, but the local artistry, see, this is a local variety of mangoes. This was before the Portuguese brought Alfonso. So these are not Alfonso, these are Paeli. Then you have the Suvarna Champaka and so on. So what is the story? It was found buried in the ground, and it was in a trunk, copper trunk. And when you look at the Chinsi copper plates of the dynasty, you realize that a small place in Konkan, one of the Agraharas, there was a Brahmin there who could afford to make a copper trunk of 15 kilos. And it is inscribed, Mavalavatte Manjusha Karita Tamratula. And stout rings, and the way to lock it, or some not lock it necessarily, and there is a small copper this thing, and in it were found jewelry, and I'll just show you. See, you see these two holes here. There's a big red stone. I don't know whether to call it a ruby. There were also here, these are in the ears, there are holes. So there was jewelry supposed to be for that mask, and a fragment I found nearby has something similar. That means this is the gold mask, this is the border of the actual stone, and there is a parachute here. Perhaps this was the Ganesha image. Now I have two old, in Thana, wherever you dig deep, you find something. So here is one of the images of Ganesha found, and they've kept it with the permission of the ASI. And now this small one seems to have something like a parachute. I do not know. Anyway, another evidence I want to present is we have the saying that Brahma was, there were no temples of Brahma. But that is, and I like Nilakanta Shastri's observation that fortunes of gods have varied in time, no less than those of the worshippers. So Brahma's fortune had, but I am going to present you three images of Brahma. And in Thana, one was found in 1995, and the other one has been in Sopara from the time of Henry Cousins. Now this is the image of Brahma found from the Siddheshwar Lake, Thana. Now you can see it's more than 6 feet tall from the top to the bottom. There are two geese, and he is obviously a different style. This is not our local style. It is more influenced by the Solankis. I had the fortune of discussing this with Dr. Daki when he was in Delhi. And this is really something. I mean, you see the fourth face. And when you look at it, his feet are turned that way. It's the back foot. I mean, it's the back face. But the fact that it is so large and it is carved in the round means that it was made for a temple as a deity to be worshipped, not just a simple image. Whereas this one, which is found at Sopara, is also more than life size, but it is unfinished. And you can see, you can learn a lot about how the sculptors would be dividing their jobs. Like you can see the important face and the shrook, the details, they have been done by the master craftsman, but the beard is to be done, or even this Udarabandha. or this part, on the wrist, this has been carved, but this hasn't been carved. So many things. It was left unfinished, and yet it was not the main image, because you can see it is on a flat surface. Although it is Brahma, the fourth head cannot be seen, but it is found, it is still there in the Chakareshwar Mandir at Nalasopara. So this is something very interesting also. It's an unusual panel, and I spent many years puzzling over it. Why should the Gajalakshmi, Gajabhishekta Lakshmi, Rashtrakota's favorite, why should she have to divide, the elephants have to divide it with, share it with Ganesh on one side and Kubera and another goddess on the other side? And I found the clue in Michael Meister's one of his articles, where he talked about these triads that were there in Rajasthan, and they were Kubera, Mahishasur Mardini, Durga, Ganesha, and there was a Sakrai inscription which said that these deities mattered to traders and bankers, because they were not Shaivite, Vaishnavite, but they just granted prosperity. So this also means there must have been a temple to which, and this is like 11th century sculpture. So that means Sopara was still a trading town, still involved commitments from bankers. This is another one. This is Avalokiteshvara image. We say Buddhism had vanished, but it had not vanished. This is Avalokiteshvara, a beautiful Buddha here, and his trademark lotus. And it was found of all the places in the ARC complex, Anushakti Nagar complex. And this was under the Shilaharas, because there's an inscription during the reign of Haripala Deva, which mentions Turubhamara Grama, which is Turbe or Trombe now. So many images tell us that the temples may not be there, but they were there once. And this is another one. This is, I also appreciate it because this is a Vajrayana. This is Indrani. There is an elephant at her feet, Ankushodhari. And what I like is this is a typical Western Indian, you see, I can imagine this child being carried on the hip of the goddess would rather be sitting on the elephant. He's bored. Now this kind of portrayal is very common in our Western India. So this also tells you that Vajrayana had already made inroads here. So I'm going to talk about how these things illustrate the social norms in the excellence in art and the way of looking things. Ambarnath Shivalaya and Koppeshwar and Adinatha Basati at Kolhapur. Now they do not, and this is not a dig, this is a statement of fact, that these are not, and this is nothing to do with Romila Thapar's comment, but this is more, these rulers are not important. Here it is not important that the Shilaharas built it. It is the Shaiva Siddhanta Acharyas who built it. And I will, just to go to quickly to Ambarnath Shivalaya, it is based on the Agamas, and because Agamas have Jnana Yoga Kriyacharya, I would try and show you that all the four have been displayed, and this is an excellent medium of non-verbal mass communication which is meant for the public. So why do I say this? This is just front view. It's west facing. This is the main porch. This is the north porch. This is the south porch. You notice while you are on this slide that the pillars of the north porch seem to be the original ones, whereas those freestanding pillars of the west and the south porch are slightly different. So there must have been some restoration. This is the front, that is the facing, this is from the west. This is the north view, and you can see this is the Bhadra, and it goes from, at the base there is Brahma and Savitri, then there is Mahakali, then there is a syncretic Surya, and then there is Chamunda. So this, each Bhadra, also my contention is that the temple itself, the Bhadras, the Garbhagruha, as well as the Mandapa, has been treated like the Chaturmukha Linga. That means whatever is within the Garbhagruha, its emanations are seen on the correct direction. So the north would be Umavaktra or Vamadeva. So Umavaktra in the form of Kali, Umavaktra from the Gavaksha in the form of Chamunda. And this is the beauty of the concept of the Gavaksha or the Ghanadwara. Ghanadwara is a redundant this thing. How can it be a dwara and be Ghana? Because it is meant to be for the Tej inside to come out and become manifest. So also Gavaksha. Gavaksha is not like our ordinary Gavaksha where we allow the sun's rays to come inside. Here it is the rays or the Tej of the Garbhagruha deity which is coming out. And in the proper form because it's the north, therefore it is Umavaktra. Then this is the west. And you can see how badly we, like this is an old photo. And you can see the Bhumija layers. It's a different variety of Bhumija. This is Dravida Karma Bhumija. So 1, 2, and 3. And there would have been Sapta Bhuma, Sapta. This is Sapta Ratha. So it would have been a Sapta Bhuma Prasad. At least 3 of them are here. Here you can see only 2. Some of them have fallen. Including this Brahma, which I can see here, is no longer there. So, and this is the south. And again the South Bhadra, although this is missing, you have Gajantaka. This is Aghora. So therefore you have the Samhara Murti. And here you have a very beautiful Vishnu. And here you have Natesha. But the Natesha at Ambarnath, I have a separate paper on it, is different from Nataraja. Is not, Nataraja is all in all. But Natesha is just an aspect, Aghora aspect. He dances in the burning ghats. So therefore, and this is the Kapili. And I'll again talk about it later, that Garbhagruha, if you equate to the Paraloka and Mandapa to the Ihaloka, then this is the sadhana. This is what takes you from here to there. Similar logic is used in Khajuraho. Dr. Devangana Desai has explained that erotica is limited to this because the Shilpa Prakasha or the Orison text consider this as the groom and this as the bride. So different ways of different interpretations, but this is the south. This is the inscription, and we are terrible at recording anything. Look at the writing. A temple that is so rich in sculpture cannot produce a straight line inscription, which is a shame. But anyway, that is what we live with. It says Shaka Samvata 982. Again, there was a lot of this thing about this being 7 or 9. But subsequently, they found this kind of a way of writing also written in words. So therefore, this is definite. Now, we keep saying that except for the inscription, there is no other written record. But you see, it mentions Ambarnath Devakula, which is where that Ambarnath has come from. It has, it's a corruption of that Ambarnath. And today I'm going to, I don't know where to start, where to stop, but I'm trying to, I have already explained to you a little bit about what is this Jnana part that they're showing. They're showing not only for the Garbhagruha, the 3 Bhadras in the directions. In the north, it is Umavaktra. In the east, it is this, not Satyajata, it is the spirit of the universe. That kind of, it's a syncretic image. And on the south, you have the Aghora. Similarly, this is also illustrated on the Mandapa Karanas, and also within the Mandapa, I will show you, the Sadashiva concept is emphasized. Sadashiva concept in the sense you are worshipping Shiva in his 3 sthitis. That means the Garbhagruha is formless, and Sadashiva is the Saguna Nirguna, Sakara Nirakar, and what is outside is Sakara. And that Sakara has that Sadashiva concept is explained. Just now I told you how it is Aghora Tatpurusha and Chamunda Umavaktra. Now there's another concept I find, and this I'm particularly keen to show because I notice how important Bhikshatana is in all. I've just finished visiting 10, 11 temples in Tamil Nadu, and I can say confidently that yes, Bhikshatana has importance. But here, the depiction is also different, and the reason also is different. And there are three things that one I'm going to point out. Mana, that means the pride of place of the sthana. The importance is to the placement, and yet bhana, that means they have kept this reality about it. So this is about Guhavasi, who is also the Bhikshatana Murti. Then other things also, that Brahma, Vishnu, Surya, they're all accommodated. Now this is again, I have already talked to you, but this is all in one place here. This is the Umavaktra, North Ganadwara. This is the South Ganadwara. This is the Vishnu on Garud. This is a syncretic Surya. You can see the posture, but you can also see Nagendra and other things, and you can see three faces. And you have here, you have Chamunda, and here you have a Natesha. These are the individual. I mean, as far as the aesthetic quality goes, there are no words. I mean, look at this. I mean, he's still holding, the delicate touch with which he's holding. One finger he's holding the hide. You can see the trunk of the elephant, and he's twisted around himself. And his fangs and the kapalas, and this is Natesha. You see, serene. Nothing under his feet. No apasmara purusha. Only the Vadakas. That means he is engrossed only in the dance. And this is Chamunda. And this is that Tatpurusha. That is the East Bhadra. It is unfortunately eroded very badly, but older images do show that there are four attendants as befits the four gods syncretic. This is Hari, Hara, Pitamaha, and Surya. That means it has Vishnu, it has Shiva, it has Brahma, and it has Surya. And this symmetry, this is the north, this is the south. Now north is Umavaktra, and this is the center. So on this side you have a Surasundari, and here you have Agora, which is the Bhrungi. That means even in the attendants, that symmetry is followed. And on the Mandapa also, this, see, accommodation. Okay, north side can be Umavaktra or Vamadeva. That means Vishnu or Devi. So they have compromised. On the Karna, because Karna is the widest, you have Chandika and Varaha. Of the images of Vishnu which are important, Varaha. And on this side you have Mahishasuramardini and Narasimha. And on the south side, you have a Nritya Murti and Samhara Murti. Remember what I showed you on the see? No, I didn't show you. But this is a Samhara Murti. Okay, and this is the Nritya Murti. Nritya Murti and Samhara Murti. So that thing is also repeated. You have Nritya Murti, it is damaged, but we can make out that he is dancing. You can see the Vadakas. And you have Veerabhadra destroying the Yajna of Daksha. And you have here again Yamantaka and Nritya. So that concept, like this is Chandika and this is Narasimha. But you can see how dynamic everything is. And he is holding him by his hair. Same stance is repeated on the other Bhadra. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to show you that. But this is Chandika. And this is where I want all the, my Tamil friends to realize that this is Bhikshatana. It is a very different representation. And where is he? This is the main East Bhadra. He is right next to it. Here you have Manonmani, you have Devi. But he also deserves this pride of place. Why? Because he is the guru of the Shaiva Siddhanta sect. And what do I mean by Bhana? You can see that here this is Manonmani, I assume, and you can see these pillarets. And these pillarets in a way are like foot rules. They have to have the Talamana. I mean, this can be, Devi can be in Uttama. But he is a human being because he is a guru. is a human being who is portrayed as Vikshanata, but you notice the same diamonds here are way above his Keshanta. That means he's Ashtatala. So you have the Mana, you have the Sthana, but you also have the Bhana, that he is not a divinity. He is mortal. And this based on something like this. I mean, the Pinchamala and all, you can see this Pinchamala, then you can see this skull. And this is the staff on which the staff is broken, but the staff is here. And Viprakirna Jatabhara is all there. The Damuru raised up to the level of the ear. Everything fits. Plus the bell, which is supposed to warn of his approach. And he is naked. But this fits this Pratima Lakshana, and yet there are several inscriptions of Guhavasi is the founder of the Shaiva Siddhanta doctrine, and all that that goes with it. So therefore, you can see this is a typical. I mean, the expressions, or the smile, or the way everything, even this skull, even the skull is smiling in a way. So. And this is the other this thing about Sadashiva concept. Now this is inside, mind you. There was, you must remember that this is medieval times, 11th century, so everyone was not allowed inside. So only the sadhakas would be inside. This is the Karotaka dome. When you look up, and there are beams which support the dome. Now on this beam, you see, why it took me 13 years, or even takes now, I think it was 15, 16 years that I found the other side of the Vishnus. I had found north, I said north, okay, that compromise is there. So north side, there are all Vishnus, Yuhantara Vishnus. Here they were the Devis on this side, Saptamatrikas. On this side, there are the forms of Shiva, Aghora Shiva. But then I found that not only these 7, but on this side, I have the remaining 5. So that makes 12, and 12 is the correct number. Is the more important of the 24 vyuhas. It is the 12 which is important. And then you have the Devi as a compromise, because she has given up her place to the Vishnus. And then you have Harihara. Again, this is the kind of peace-loving people. They are not fighting against each other. Now look at the miniature. This is 10 inches. This is the dome. And this is the frieze on the north side. And you have Narayana, Aniruddha, Govinda, Vishnu, and you notice symmetry everywhere. If here their left is folded, here their right is folded, and the center one is in a Padmasana. Very, very, very minute detail. So this is the north beam inside. Similarly, this is the, I can only show some. So this is the outer beam, and again, because he is no, this is from the north beam only, because it is only Gada and Chakra can be seen. So it can be Padmanabha or it can be Keshava, but because we start with Keshava Narayana, so therefore it is likely to be Keshava. And then this is the Harihara. Although the head has been chopped off, you can see the Trishula and you can see the Chakra. So this, and 10 inches. So you can imagine how much time, and they are 13 feet above. So you can't really see them unless you take a very powerful torch and climb up a ladder. And my friends who have taken these pictures, they were drenched in sweat because it's very stuffy inside at 13 feet. But here again, it's the south, and so that, and this is the junction. South, you can obviously see Bhairava, and here you can see Saraswati. So this is where the Aghora part ends, and this is where the Devi part starts. And the outside, these are all the forms of Shiva. Shiva, I was surprised that I wanted to, so I was happy when I found it, that Shiva with Pasha. Okay, Sadashiva you do depict with Pasha, but this is not something you normally associate with it. With Trishula, okay, I can understand. So, okay, now I come to the sadhana part. So I must say that Jnana part of it, Sadashiva concept, philosophy, theology, whatever. This is where the sadhana part is there. Up, high up above, you have because the same things that Pashupats follow is also followed here. That is Chitta Shuddhi, Atma Shuddhi, Gatra Shuddhi, Chitta Shuddhi, Atma Shuddhi. These are the steps of purification. Now for Atma Shuddhi, Ahankara is the worst thing, worst mala. Now how do you shed Ahankara? You remember this is the 11th century. Here the Divyangas are not, this is not the good way of expressing it. If you see an Apanga, he would be laughed at. So ridicule, to invite ridicule, you pretend to be a lame person. You pretend to be lewd. And here you are actually have someone who is doing tapas. And what is the result of all this? Is this. Again, Mana, Sthana and Bhana. I cannot go into the details, but he is right outside the Garbhagriha, placed outside on the Kapili, because he has already, with the Nirvana Diksha, has gone in and he has come out. And what is the concept of moksha? It is Shiva Sadarshya. He looks like Shiva. Again, I spent years figuring out who he is, because he has a Trishula Nagendra, he has Nandi at his feet. And look at this, the Ashtatala, because he is human. It just tells you this is a depiction of what happens when you perform the sadhana over and over and over again. Then you reach this state. And another important, very important thing is that Sutradhar and Acharya, they are both portrayed. Now, this is an important thing. I think Dr. Swaminathan's book also mentions this, that we don't credit. And actually, it is a very noble thing that the Sutradharas and the Acharyas, their names are not there anywhere. We know who was the king, but we don't know who actually did the work. And this I could identify it based on, I have to take my hats off to Stella Kramrish in Dilwa. Excuse me. In Dilwara, one of the roundels, she noticed an inscribed panel, and it says Sutradhara Kela and Sutradhara. Who is this? Anyway, there are two Sutradharas. And this one is holding that rod, measuring rod, and he is just standing in Anjali Mudra. And you see the Sutradhara here, the one that I've identified as a Sutradhara, has this rod. The rod has different angles. One would be octagonal, one would be hexagonal, because this is how they would measure angles. And he has a book, Pothi. Now this is idam shastram, that kind of a thing, that he should be proficient in both shastra and in his craft. So therefore this Sutradhar is very important, but he is Bhana, whereas Guru, Acharya, is portrayed on the Garbhagriha wall. Sutradhar is in the last Salilantar. So that brings me to the another very important part of Ambarnath. Inside, you see Jnana, Yoga, Kriya and Charya. Now Kriya is what, when you construct temples, that is also Kriya. Now it is 11th century, they had become so complicated that they had to have Purohits guiding them. They had to be rituals. And these are the Pratishtha Vidhi Saptakam, 7 Pratishthas and Chaturdasha Shantikani. And these are displayed inside. Now inside only the allowed people will be going, not the public. But what are they? The main, I'm going to show you a few only, but one of them is because the temple is perhaps finished Sampaditam by Mumuni, the third of the brothers, and this Kalasharopan, this is a small panel, again the 10-inch variety. You have these, you see this Amalaka, then Amalaka and these all other elements are stacked. And there is this Kalasharopana is described in Shilpa Prakasha. You see, the idea is, this is, you can see the festoons, and this is that means there's a big celebration, and then there is a puja, the king probably, and the Acharya, Sutradhar, whoever. And what is the purpose? It is, what is the purpose? This is to be carried, it is to be stacked outside, and it is to be carried on the ground 3 times before placing it on the color in its place above the Shikhara, because it is better to spot any defects here rather than have it taken there, and then it would be a big apashakun if it falls. So therefore this was a precaution, but this was one of the pratishthas, was the Kalasharopa. And then this also is marvelous. This is it's called you see these okay, you see this is different Panchami Chaivam Purushasya Nivesham. So this is Purushasya Niveshana. That means this is the Prasada Purusha. Prasada Purusha. You can see this man is leaning, one foot supported on his knee, the other one up, and he's carrying this. And there's a lady behind him with something in her hand and a small child. Now it is known that the inscriptions mention Shilahara Shishu. So the Shilahara Vamsha Shishu, that was Chittaraj, and you can see there was no place for the Chhatra, so it is shown here. But what is this? This is, again, it takes a long time to figure out what it is. Now this cannot be a stone image. If it was a stone image this size, the man could not have carried it that easily. Therefore it had to be the golden effigy. And this is I like this very much. This is from, I've taken it from Dr. P. S. Silva Filiosa's Rutkumbha Pratishtha about the Shaiva Siddhanta. And it has said that Sukshmasya Linga Dehasya Prasada Stula Dehaka Atmana Sukshma Dehasya Bhaya Deho Yatha Smrta Tadvatrapi Chaitanya Sanyoga Vidhiriyakita Prasada Deha Rut Padme Kumbham Samsthapayedyata. So this is the idea behind praising the Prasada Purusha, and where Shukanasa Samaptaucha to Purva Vedyacha Madhyata. And then I climbed up, and this is a 6 feet nearly, because the walls were that thick. There is a window, you can say. There's a door on this side which leads to the little passages above the mandapa, but this is something, this, when I stuck my camera in, this is what I see. There would have been a Vedi here. There would have been a Vedi here where the Prasada Purusha would have been placed, because he would have to be placed after the Shikhar was installed. So, and this also is a very commercial consideration. See, the Sutradhar constructs the building, and the Swami is afraid that he might get the punya for it because he has built it. So he says, at the end of it, you see the Chhatra, this is the Shishu, this is the Chittaraja, and you see this man is pouring water. And you know how Kanyadana is done? Similarly, this is the man from whose hands it is falling into the hands of the king. Because the king says, Punyam prasadajam swami prarthayet sutradharata, sutradharo vadet swamin akshayam bhavatatava. That means he is asking for the merit of the temple construction to be given to him. So this is just to be on the safe side in case it gets into the wrong account. So now I come to the Koppeshvara temple at Kidrapur. This is Shilahara Dynasty. So coming back to just recap, Jnana Yoga Kriyacharya. All these things are displayed in the appropriate places. Jnana is outside for everyone to see, plus inside the mandapa, plus on the mandapa walls outside. And the Kriya, that is the Pratishtha, Sapta Pratishtha, Chaturdasha Shantikani, they are inside because they are not the matter for the public to know about. So now we go to the Koppeshwara temple at Khidrapur. And it is a beautiful temple, though much vandalized. And it has, there is a Swarga Mandapa that they call Swarga Mandapa, there is a Guda Mandapa, and there is the Garbhagruha. And this is the overall view. It is much, much bigger than Ambarnath, but it is nothing compared to the Chola temples. But this is the Garbhagruha, although the Shikara is lost, but you know that it has a typical Bhumija Bhumis here, so Shikaras are left. And the whole temple is balanced on the backs of elephants, huge elephants. And Dr. Zamkerkar says, without any Vahana Viveka, everybody is riding on the elephants. But even then, you have this And this is the view from the west. It is stellate, and therefore it almost looks Vrittakara. It is not. And this is the south wall, and you can see this is Jalavatayana and the stellate part, and these are the Jalis. And these miniatures remind me of some of the temples, like even Nageshwara Swami Temple, Kumbakonam and all. These are the Bhadras. And you have Dikpalas, because this is the South Bhadra, you have Yama on his buffalo. But notice even on the Bhadra, everybody is there. That means all the gods are there. It is that way the Shilaharas were liberal. Here it is Varuna. The images inside are missing, but even then. And these are all the elephants, you see. And this is the north side, north wall. North wall has Saraswati, south wall has Ganesha. And this is the, okay, they're all elephants except the main Bhadra, where you have Nandi. That means Shiva Parvati on a Nandi. He is Nandi, although he is destroyed, he is Nandi. And then either side Brahma and this side Vishnu. They are on elephants. And this is again stellate. Even the Kunda has a stellate boundary. This is a more detailed photo. Shiva Parvati on Nandi and Vishnu on elephant, Brahma on elephant, because all the entire Gajathara is in this form. And this is just to show you what the others look like. That means this is again with a Katwang, this would be a Shaiva, this thing. But even then, they are all riding elephants. And then there are small episodes. You have somewhere you have Hanuman giving the ring to Sita for identification and so on. And this maybe you can read, I cannot. But anyway, because Shilaharas, I mean, this is Kannad, I think. And one of his Senapatis, generals, was commemorated here for his valor. And this is there below one of the Ajanga sculptures. And this is, someone surreptitiously gave it to me. This is inside the Garbhagruha. Now, you don't normally see images inside the Garbhagruha, but this is just a fleeting glimpse of the Garbhagruha. Here you can see this is where the main Shivalinga would be. And this is the south side, where north side has Saraswati, south side has Ganesha, and this could be Lakulisha. We don't know. But this is not Shaiva Siddhanta. This probably was Pashvatattva. Oops. And this is that Swarga Mandapa. So every architect, like yesterday, Sitaramanji also mentioned this, that every architect leaves something of his own, some hallmark. So this is the Swarga Mandapa. These are the pillars, and there are 12 such images. 8 are Dikpalas and 4 are like Skanda and other images. And this is a, don't know for sure whether it was ever completed or whether it was left unfinished or destroyed later, but this is how it looks from the inside. And this is another view. If you climb up there, then this is what the Swarga Mandapa looks like. So I have wrapped up Kopeshwar at a fast clip, because I also wanted to do Adinatha Basati. And this is what I want to stress about Shilaharas. They were not warrior kings, but they ruled in harmony. And they were equally generous to the Jainas as to the Hindu orthodoxy. Now this Adinatha Basati, I keep saying that these temple walls are a reflection of the society. Now Jaina Acharyas had realized, excuse me, that the episodic panels are enormously popular amongst the people. And the Jain Tirthankaras, people cannot relate to them. If they cannot hear their prayers, what use are they? So therefore they invented the Yakshis, the Shasana Devatas. But the Shasana Devatas also had to have some form, some qualities, some ayudhas, and they had to have some legends attached to them. Excuse me. So this Adinatha Basati, there are, this is about the same time as the Koppeshvara Shiva temple, just a few hundred yards from it. And the Yakshis have assigned a specific placement. External walls of the sanctum have only Surasundaris and musicians, but east and west walls are decorated with profusely ornamented and four-armed Yakshas and Yakshis. And this is the important thing. One of the, on the Kapili, on the, the joining of the Garbhagruha and the Mandapa, you have an unmistakable depiction of a two-armed Ambika with two sons and a lion Vahana, which appears there. And this is clearly a prelude to narrative episodic panels to come. Now, this is the Garbhagruha outer wall. This is the Jaina, this thing. You don't see any images of divinities. You have interesting things like you have a snake charmer. This must be a snake charmer, I think. He has a snake in his hand and he has something like a, and she has got a mongoose in her hand and she's, perhaps trying to tame the snake. And these are the Yakshis. On one side, you have all the Yakshis, and I cannot, but they can be identified based on the Ayudhas they have. They have different Ayudhas. And at the corner, you have the Yakshi and the Yaksha. And the Yakshas look prosperous and they are bejeweled and quite, something that would appeal to the common people. So this wall again is only Yakshas. The other side was only Yakshis. This was the Yakshas. And this is the Kapili and this is Ambika. Now this is something, this indicates the beginning of the portrayal on the Kapili of episodic panels. You can see that this is the, typical. She has the, perhaps she has lost the Amralumbi, but one of her sons, the other one of her sons, and her husband who has been turned into a lion. That is her Vahana. So this is Ambika Yakshi. This again is Ambika Yakshi. And inside, there are no Dikpalas outside, but this Yogesh Prabhudesai who lives in Kolhapur was kind enough to give me this image of the Jina image inside. I only wanted the Parikara, so he's given them. These are all the Dikpalas on the Parikara of the Jina's Tirthankara's image inside. So I think I finished before time.
Yes.
So,
so since you have finished before time, we have a lot of time to talk.
Yes, I hope you do.
Yes. Let me come back from the end. Right. So you're talking about Dikpalas in a Jaina temple.
Yeah.
Now, the Dikpalas are the exact same, the Indra, Yama, Niruti, the, Vayu, all of them.
Yeah.
There is no difference whatsoever, is it?
No, the Vahanas are also similar. But of course, even in Hindu temples, Kubera has different Vahanas. Sometimes he's on an elephant, sometimes on a, lion, and so on. But there are other Jain temples, like Jabreshwar at Fulton has the all 8 Dikpalas. They are depicted the way they are depicted in the correct places and all.
Okay. So where is this coming from? I mean, in the Jaina Puranas or epics or any of their sacred literature, do we have the Dikpalas talked about with their roles, etc., or it is not? The sculptors have simply taken it as a across, because you don't see the Dikpalas in a sense in the Bauddha tradition at all. Right.
But you see, one of the reasons why Jainism survived and remained active, whereas Buddhism kind of declined, was because this is something that Dr. Bahulkar in one of his talks had mentioned, that the acharyas, the Bauddha monks, they kind of cloistered themselves. They were not in touch with the public, whereas Jaina acharyas were very practical. They gave advice when required, good sound advice, not just religious but also trade, whatever. And they could see, and they could keep up. If they thought that the general populace wants this, they would have it. And actually, I had gone to Kolhapur, I think some 2006 or something. And that time, they were the person I met was associated with those Jain temples, and he said that Jwala Malini is one of the Yakshis,
Right.
Shavana Devata. They were thinking of organizing a Navaratra for Jwala Malini.
I see.
Because what does it matter whether you keep Amba Mata in the center and then dance around it, or you keep Jwala Malini in the center and dance around it? It's a reason to come together and, sort of in a way reinforce religion.
Okay.
Something like that. So these are Purana Kathas. I mean, Neminatha Purana. Actually, I have other lots of details about the grants from the Shilahara, Kolhapur Shilaharas to the Jaina Munis to stay in the Jaina Basati and compose. So one I know is a Neminatha Purana. It was composed there.
Okay.
So that means they are also keeping up. They understand what is required. So
Okay.
they keep up.
Okay.
So in a way, temples are supposed to keep society on an even keel.
Okay.
That is one of the main functions of the temples. They are a social also guideline kind of thing.
I would like to come back to this point a little later. There are a few questions that I would like to ask. There's a question from Gopu. It says early Shilahara kings listed in the genealogy that you showed.
Yeah.
The names seem to be Prakrit.
And they're Kannada.
Marathi, Konkani.
Kannada.
Yeah. The later king's name seems to be in Sanskrit. Is it correct? If so,
yes, it is correct. It is correct that it is initially they were Kannada. That is even Chittaraja and Mummuni.
Mummuni, right.
And so actually Vasundhara Filiosa ma'am said that Mummuni could be because he was the third one. Vandanandi Muni. That means third Muni, third prince. Something like that. But that was Kannada. But later on they all become Sanskritized. They become Sanskritized. And incidentally, they all claim that they are Tagara Varadeshwara. That means they trace their origin from the city of Tagara, which is there. There is the ancient Satavahana trading post where
what is its modern name? Where is
Ter is in Osmanabad, and it is Osmanabad, and actually there is a museum. Actually, that story is also worth going into, but some other time. There was one a farmer. Of course, for his farmer, by dint of toil, he had gathered enough money, and he noticed that one Gora Sahib, one European and one Calcutta Babu, were excitedly wandering around the fields and collecting something in this. He was astonished that this starched white handkerchief of the Sahib was placed on the soil, and something very carefully picked up from the soil was kept on that and wrapped up carefully. And then he got curious and he asked. And then he was told that these are the remains of the ancient civilization. And there is actually a museum at there. It has fabulous collection of terracottas, heads, and so many things. Even the this Aditi Uttanapada, Lajja Gauri kind of thing. And this man, he understood and he promised every child in the village one whatever smallest coin. He says, you bring me something, I'll give you that.
Something.
And the best part, he has given over everything to the state, because there were enough Europeans who were bidding for his but he says, no, what is from this soil will remain on this soil. And the best part is there is an ivory handle of a mirror.
Okay.
Okay, with a typical that Yakshi type, heavily jeweled. And Dr. Deglurkar has also identified this one found in Pompeii, and it's in the museum. It is somewhat similar, establishing the trade links between there and Rome. Same mirror handle. And that there is lot of old evidence about there. There is.
Yeah, I mean, that there has been trade with Rome, with the entire Indian coastal regions is fairly well known.
But this is not coastal. This is on the way to Python, perhaps. Starting from the coast, there's these caravans, the Sarthavahakas, and actually, Ter is also mentioned in Brihatkatha. And Brihatkatha is also supposed to, it is one of the conjectures that they were the Sarthavahas who would go in a caravan together, and at night they would sit around the fire and exchange tales, like Sinbad's tales. And that is how they were all collated and Paishachi language and all that, but
made into Brihatkatha.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm just wandering off, but that man, Lamture, he is the man who knew the value of whatever was there and of heritage.
Okay. So another question from Gopu is that Indra or Skanda on the elephant, where you were showing a whole bunch of
because the whole the lower layer of this thing Koppeshwar is all elephants, and that is what Dr. Zamkerkar mentioned, that there is no Vahana Viveka. Everybody is riding elephants.
Right.
So therefore, except for where Shiva Parvati on the main Bhadra, only he is on Nandi. Others are all, even Vishnu is on elephant.
Okay.
Brahma is on elephant.
Okay.
So that is just the Gajathara, but somebody's imagination to put everybody on that.
Okay. Right. So let's, there is a question which I want to come to next, which is sort of what you alluded to, the social part of it. But when you started talking about Ambarnath, it was on a very, very solid, sound Shaiva Siddhanta concept.
Yeah.
It is not a very simplified model. It is very complex, where every pillar, every little sculpture, the organization, the arrangement, everything. Of course, they are your interpretations. They make perfect sense. Now, how would they have started with? We've seen simple temples, right? Even a very, very simple Shiva temple with a simple Garbhagraha and only a linga in the sanctum, with nothing on the niches around, also is constructed according to Shaiva Siddhanta only.
I don't know whether it is the Agamic or whether it's Puranic. If it is Smartha, then there will be something different. Iconography.
Almost, I'm talking about from my exposure to Tamil Nadu, they're all Agamic. They're almost all Agamic. I don't see any Puranic or Vaidika, Smartha involvement in that from what you could see. Now, the temple that you are talking about with such minute, as if like, every pillar, every stone is talking Shaiva Siddhanta.
Yes. It's a lithic book.
Right.
A book in stone.
Right. And that is very surprising to me. The detail to which, and you're talking about them being Vamanas, that like nobody is getting so involved in trying to, whether it is the kings who did it or the acharyas who did it.
The acharyas.
The kind of detail that has gone into it.
Exactly.
It is really shocking to me, in fact, that would somebody put so much effort.
This was also one of the persons. And Acharya, I could not show you the Acharya images also there. But these are the people who thought of this. And there is enough evidence to show that, the South Konkan Shilaharas I haven't mentioned because they were late and they vanished early. They were conquered by, and sort of, they became part of the Kolhapur Shilaharas. But Rattaraja's inscription mentions Vyoma Shambhu and how that Acharya was so and so, Matta Mayura Karkaruni branch, they specifically mention that. And so what happened was, this was like survival, if you look at Shaiva Siddhanta, because the Rashtrakutas had finished. And previously Rashtrakutas were their patrons.
Right.
And they had gone, they had vanished. And now only these Shilaharas were there, and they were willing to sponsor them, honor them, whatever. And they capitalized on that, and they put, it's like they put that Sutradhara and the Acharya, both must have been outstanding. In the sense, they knew exactly what they wanted. You see, this doesn't give me enough time to show you even the outside tank. Because when you start the Shaiva Siddhanta, that Kriya, that how you have to do start the puja and all that, you start from it's like macrocosm to microcosm kind of thing. So you start with the tank. The tank had images of not deities. They're two-armed, and they're both arms are holding shastras, because they represent something. One would hold a Barna and a Danusha and a Shara. And because even Sadashiva, when you worship, you have to worship first the Shastras, Astras, something like that. So all that they had taken care of in the even in the tank, because there is a stream right outside. So you don't really need another tank inside for ablutions, everything, but that had to be the sacred water or something, sanctified water that is to be used for puja. And there was at the entrance, to the tank area, there was a doorpost with Ganesha in the center and Ashtamatrukas, 4 matrukas on either side. On the inside face, there was Varaha, and there was Mahishamardini. So they were the correct imagery of divinities also there. But unfortunately, that is not there anymore. I think now there are C4X blocks. The rest of it must be in the storage. But this is the case, that every detail was looked at. Every detail was looked at. Even that the beams. I told you 13 years is not enough. My article is called Footnotes at Ambarnath.
Okay.
Because these are footnotes, although they are 13 feet up. Because who are they meant for? They are in the dark. They are inside. So they are meant for Manasa Puja. But you graduate, slowly you start practicing, then you can imagine what is there. But first you have to be able to see them. The 12 Vishnu forms, the 12 Bhairava forms, the Saptamatrukas. Everything has meaning. Everything has meaning. And even in the Antarada, the ceiling is Samatalavitana. There also you have Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh on either side, which are the narrower, less wide. Therefore, only 3 could fit. But you see, local, they had also to take into account the local veneration for Brahma. That is why there are 11 Brahmas in the iconography. 11.
What is the meaning here? The 11 Brahmas, what do they?
No, 11 in the sense, because I counted 11. They're not necessarily, but there are 2 on the pillar tops inside.
Oh, you are simply counting the number of.
Yeah. Not Ekadasha Rudra like Ekadasha Brahma, right. Not like that. But what I'm saying is, such preponderance of Brahma images indicates that they are taking into account not so many Vishnu images. Vishnu images they are there. But you see, I can see the Acharya chafing under the fact that he has to portray Narasimha and Varaha on the mandapa. As part of Sadashiva concept, you have Umavakta, that is Chandika, but then Chandika has Varaha next to her. And then you have Mahishasuramardini and you have Narasimha next to her. Therefore, I think, because in the triptych, the Bhadras are triptychs. That means you have Raudra flanked by Saumya. Like if you have Gajantaka, on one side you have Lingodbhava, on the other side you have an Anugraha Murti. So there in the center, where I showed you that central east Bhadra, which is a syncretic image,
Right.
it is flanked by Sharabhesha. Sharabhesha. Because, okay, lest anybody else get the wrong idea, Vishnu is
That
vanquished.
it is not a Vishnu centric temple.
Yeah.
Uh,
Similarly, this Ganyantaka,
okay.
on one side is Lingodbhava, both Brahma and Vishnu with folded hands.
Right.
So he has to, because he has to do what he has to do. Because the Shastras say that you have to have Sadashiva. But it bugs him, I'm sure. That is why, otherwise you never see Sharabhesha in the Deccan. Don't see Sharabhesha in the Deccan. Lingodhava also is a very differently portrayed there. But the Vishnu and Brahma standing with folded hands by the pillar of fire. Making it clear. And inside also, inside pillars also they have a seated Brahma and Vishnu with folded hands.
Now, this is a very interesting interpretation. I have a few more questions, but I know I have to ask some of the questions from the audience.
Yes.
So there's one from Mr. Nageshwara Rao. I think difference between Natesa and Nataraja, which you mentioned. When you talked about a Natesa, I said it is not Nataraja, but Natesa.
See,
what I elaborate a little bit?
Yeah. Actually, Natesha is simply Shiva as the Aghora form. Although he doesn't seem Aghora, but he is dancing in this thing, and he burns all your pasha. He removes all the pasha. All these astras are there for the removal of the pasha that tie your whatever soul or something. Whereas Nataraja concept, from what I hear of the praises of the saints, he is also an Apasmara Purusha, and he is holding, see, the fire element is still there. I don't know, I have never come across the reason why he should hold a fire in his palm. Do you? No? No, because when you look at the 5 elements that are assigned to the 5, that is 5 qualities, gunas, fire is Aghora. That means he is associated with Aghora. And even Natesha is just a form of Sadashiva on the south side. Whereas Nataraja is the whole complete. That Chidambaram Nataraja, he is in the Garbhagruha. Isn't it?
But then, again, if you're really talking only the some of the Tamil temples, the Chola temples, you also see Nataraja in the one of the niches around, particularly, I think, on southern sides, usually. It's there in Brihatkatha temple, it is there in Kangigunda Cholapuram temple, it is there in some of the smaller temples as well. Right. So yes, it is a complete iconographic concept, but it is also there as one of the niches. But anyway, let me ask a couple of more questions. Kishore's question on was there a precursor to these temples? Did Shilaharas build simpler structures before Ambarnath and Koppeshwara?
No, for one thing, the 2 branches are totally different. I mean, they just share the same name, Shilahara. But the Gandaraditya and the Kolhapur branch is different. And this branch is different. But, and they are not Shaiva Siddhanta followers, the Kolhapur Shilaharas. Okay. They have, the Koppeshwar has perhaps what looks like laculation. So that is not, the imagery there is not like that. Koppeshwar doesn't have that kind of logic. Ambarnath is the only, and there is nothing before that. There was, I think there simply may not have been enough prosperity, whatever it takes, money. As it is, this one, there is some evidence that somewhere, because there were wars, Nagarjuna was killed in a war, there were invasions, war, that means civil wars were there, things like that. So, funds, paucity may be there, but the best thing that happened to us in Ambernath is that Acharya was erudite, and he had at his disposal artists who could portray The sculptures are aesthetically absolutely dynamic. There's no
Right.
question. I mean, there are some inferior also, but there are, and that way of portrayal is definitely worth. I mean, this is once in a lifetime kind of a thing.
Yeah. So, in a way, from what you have presented, I could sort of peel these layers. So there is at the core, there is the architecture itself, right? That's just blocks of stone. And then there is the arrangement, very careful arrangement, which is where the Shastra clearly comes in. And to give that, that life forms, the gods' icons, which is the one that then brings the complete Shaiva Siddhanta concept right through. And then the makers, the Sutradhars, the Acharyas, and they are not left out, which is the case with most temples. If you look at, if not for some of the inscriptions, you wouldn't know who made, the Brihatkatha temple, or the Gangakonda Cholapuram temple, or or any of the other great temples, right? There are no images, by and large, or even the names of the Sutradhars or the Acharya. Sometimes, if the Acharya is the builder, like in the case of Rajendra Chola's Acharya, you see his name in one of the temples. It's like a relatively smaller temple. But here, they are present forever, right?
But remember, because one of my, I take a lot of people around to show Ambarnath. Someone said, this is looks exactly like the one I saw so-and-so place. I said, these are not portraits.
Right.
They are symbolic presentation.
Correct. I agree. I'm just saying, I'm not saying it is a lifelike portraiture. It is the representation. And we know, we can sort of see who they are. And, what they are, what they have done and why they are there. So you could see all of that. So that way I can see that there seems to be sort of a unique temple in that sense. I don't know if I can even think of or compare any other temple across the whole country which seems to have this level of.
I might just add, Devangana Desai has worked on the Khajuraho temples. Kandariya Mahadev is also based on Shaiva Siddhanta. And Vaikuntha, that is Lakshmana temple, so-called Lakshmana temple, is on Pancharatra. It brings me to another temple near Aurangabad, which is because it has, the architecture was planned architecture. In the sense there, you have 32 projections and 8 are occupied by the Dikpalas. That leaves 24. And they are all 24 are the Vyuhantara Lakshmis, not Vishnu.
Not Vishnu, okay.
Because this is the Mahavishnu is again like this thing Shiva, Parashiva. He is inert. So Lakshmi is the one who does everything, Pancharatra thing. So therefore she is portrayed in 24 Vyuhantara ways. So architecture and this, they did try to combine.
Okay. This is really interesting, really, more discussions really required, but we are sort of out of time and we have to move to
yes, of course,
the next talk. So thank you.
And my invitation for your site visits.
Yes.
I'm 78.
Yes. We will. We have to come now. We have no other option but to come and go along with you to all these places to really get the first-hand feel of what you have described.
And soon, because the pollution and everything is causing the stone is inferior. Is causing a lot of damage, so might as well make the most of it now.
We should do that soon. So let me invite Kishore to thank you, and then also to introduce the next speaker. Over to you, Kishore.
Thank you, Dr. Kumud Kanetkar. It was an excellent lecture, not just having the historical aspects, but also the deep philosophy behind it and how it intertwines with the art that the Shilaharas built. So thank you once again.
stop sharing?
Yes, no, it's already been taken care of.
Okay.
Thank you. So from the Northern Konkan, the Kolhapur region, we go to the other extreme part of India,
Yes.
the eastern part of India now.
Yes.
I'd like to welcome our next speaker, Dr. Sudeepa Ray Bandyopadhyay, and her topic is the architectural activities under the Pala and Sena dynasties. Dr. Sudeepa Ray Bandyopadhyay is a professor in the Department of Ancient Indian History and Culture at the University of Calcutta. She obtained her master's degree in Ancient Indian History and Culture from University of Calcutta with a gold medal for securing the first position. She completed her doctoral research as a junior research fellow of ICHR, New Delhi in 1996. Dr. Sudeepa has authored a book, Architectural Motifs in Early Medieval Art of Eastern India, published by the University of Calcutta. She is also co-editor of two books, Aspects of Indian History and Culture and Revisiting Early India, Essays in Honor of DC Sarkar and Proceedings of Indian Art History Congress from 2014 to 2016. She has participated in various seminars in India and abroad and contributed several articles on Indian art, architecture, and iconography to reputed national and international peer-reviewed journals and edited volumes. In 2015, the International Center for Study of Bengal Art, Dhaka, Bangladesh, awarded her a honorary fellowship for her research contributions on Bengal art. Dr. Sudeepa has recently edited a book on Nataraja Images of Bengal, published by the University of Calcutta, and Shaiva Iconography, a facet of Indian art and culture, as a joint editor. She is presently engaged in writing a catalog of stone sculptures of a district museum of West Bengal, and is also preparing a photographic documentation of the earlier medieval temple sculptures of Karnataka. With these few words, I would like to welcome Dr. Sudeepa Ray Bandyopadhyay.
Ma'am, can you, just. Just 1 second. Just give us a minute. We will, she doesn't seem to be there. Just give us 1 minute. Kishore, you can have that presentation slide.
Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, yeah, you are on.
Yeah. Is it okay?
Yeah, this is fine.
Okay.
You can load the presentation and start.
I can load. No.
Yeah, you can share.
but I can't see the screen, the full screen. Okay.
Just do a alt
Share
tab.
screen. And my PPT is on. It was open. Can I go once back?
Yeah, you can see. You just go to now it's on. Correct.
No, it's on.
No, I can see the screen.
Now it is okay.
No, I can see your full screen. You have to go to the presentation.
Oh. Now it is okay.
No, I'm still not seeing the presentation.
Your screen is visible, but not your presentation.
Oh.
See, stop the share screen.
Stop share, and then
Select the share screen again.
But yes,
go to the presentation.
Now it is okay, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
Now you can go full screen mode.
Yeah. Now it is okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
Just I want to see the next slide. Okay. Now it is okay. So should I start?
Yes, please.
First, I want to thank to the organizers, especially Dr. Shyam, Dr. Shiv Shankar Babu, Dr. Badri Sheshadri and Kishore, for inviting me to present a talk on temple builders of early medieval India, especially on Palushina period. But I did not restrict myself within the temple only, because the Palushina dynasty has a large scale of architectural activities. That's why I would like to discuss with you, not only with the temples, other monasteries also. So because during the Palushan period, there are not so many temples of the Pal period extant in conditions. So I would like to discuss both the architectural activities. That's why I want to talk about that. So without wasting time, I'd like to go directly to my topic. First, I have divided my lecture into 4 parts. That first, I would like to introduce the Palushina Empire, and then talking very few words about that, their political activities and like this. And after that, I would like to discuss their monastic activities, monastery they have done, and their subordinate rulers, so and so. And after that, I'll discuss about the temples of Bengal, Bihar, and Jharkhand region. Now it is Jharkhand region, but at that time it was within the jurisdiction of the Palushan Empire. And after that, I will talk about the examples. So much we have discovered from the architectural motifs. So what is that? I will discuss later on. And at the last, I will try to conclude with some few important points. So regarding, keep it in mind, I would like to say the rise of the Palo dynasty in the second half of the 8th century ushered in a new epoch in Bengal's history and that of Bihar, then broadly known as Gaur and Magad respectively. This area is Gaur and Magad. I think this I can. Okay. This is the Gaura and Magad region, and it happened after century-long anarchy and confusion. There was no established central authority, and rivalry among local ruling chiefs for personal aggrandizement was the order of the day. Widespread troubles within this one-time politically organized region, combined with invasions from outside, from without, led the common people, Prakriti, to frantically search for a leader who would give them the taste of peace by putting the house in order. The Palo rulers of undivided Bengal, that is West Bengal and Bangladesh, promoted sculptural arts, manuscript paintings, literary works, and architecture in Eastern India. They built a huge monastery at Paharpur and patronized the great universities of Nalanda and Vikramshila. They had close contacts with Southeast Asia, Nepal, and Tibet, and contributed a major role in different aspects of cultural activities. In the case of architectural activities, the Palos have major contributions, whereas the Senas contributed more to sculptural art rather than architectural embellishments. Among the sculptures produced by the Senas, the Brahmanical images are more in number than the Buddhist. Though Bengal had no stone quarry, a large number of sculptures with different artistic tastes and iconographic traits were produced during the Palo-Sena period, that is between the 9th and the 13th centuries CE. The architecture reveals the material culture of the past. The ideas of the builders and patrons regarding monumental activities give us a clear conception. As geographical entity of Bengal and Bihar, the territorial divisions under the Palo-Sena rules were Videho, Ango, Pataliputra, Magadha, Tirabhukti, Mudagiri in Bihar region. Gaur, Bango, Bangalo, Harikela, Shamatato, Chandradipo, Patikero, Shumhoraro, Tamralipto, Pundro, Barindri, Bango, and Shamatato in undivided Bengal, that is Bangladesh and West Bengal. So I have to cover all the places in a very short time. Khalimpur copper plate inscription of Dharmapala stated that Gopalo I was made king by the people, this Prakriti of Bengal, and put an end to the state of Matsyana for nearly a century, from the middle of 7th century to the middle of the 8th century. Out of this chaos, people elected Gopalo I, who rose to power in Barindri in the 8th century, which lasted for 4 centuries. Next to Gopal, 2 Palo monarchs, Dharmapalo and his son Devapalo, are involved in the power politics of northern India and extended their rules in the vast region of Bihar. Devapalo had defeated the Dravidos, Gujarato, the Utkalos, and the king of Kamrupo, and during this time, undivided Bengal, Bangladesh and West Bengal reached their greatest prosperity. The glory of the Palo dynasty becoming faded gradually during the reigns of Mahindra Palo, Bigraho Palo, Narayan Palo. Again, the monarchical glory was revived during the reigns of Mohipalo I and Rampalo. But finally, after the 18 years of rule of Madanapalo, the Palo king Govinda Palo paved the declining phase of the Palo Empire. The declining phase of the Palo dynasty started during the last quarter of the 11th century, when the Senas came from Karnataka region came into prominence in the political arena of Bengal. They are devout worshippers of Brahmanical pantheons. Shamanta Sena, the feudatory ruler of Vigraho Palo, became the first ruler of the Sena dynasty, settled on the banks of the Ganges in the Raro region, comprising the present Birbhum, Bankura, Bardhaman, and Hooghly districts of West Bengal. Vijay Sena, the grandson of Shamanta Sena, became an ally of Rampalu and campaigned against the Koivata rebels from the Rara region. Later, he defeated the son of Rampalu and declared independence. In addition to his capital at Vijaypura, he founded another capital city, Bikramapura, in Dhaka in Bangladesh. Ballala Sena, the successor of Vijay Sena, extended his almost trouble-free kingdom up to the eastern Bihar and a part of Magadha in the second half of the 12th century. His capital was Ballalabari near Gaura in the Malda district of North Bengal. Lakshmana Sena, the son of Ballala Sena and the last notable ruler of the time, shipped his capital to Lakhnauti in the Malda district and ruled over almost the whole Magadha and Bengal region. Lakshmana Sena erected sacrificial pillars at Kashi, Prayag, and Puri. According to the description of Minhaj in his Tabakati Nasiri, Bakhtiyar Khilji suddenly invaded the capital city of the then Bengal in 1206. Lakshmana Sena fled away to Bikrampura in Bangladesh, and his son Bisharapa Sena ruled Bengal from here for a few years in the first quarter of the 13th century. Now I'll talk about some prominence and subordinate rulers under the Palo monarchs. In the 8th century Palo inscription, one of the subordinate rulers of Dharmapalo, Mahashamanta Bhadranago, a king of the Nago family, built Bihar Antarabanika in an unidentified locality in North Bengal and a Gandhakuti at Shompura Mahabihar. Gandhakuti is a private chamber preserved for Buddha in the individual monastery and sometimes in the monastic complex. Vardhanas may be, there are lots of contemporary or before the Palas, they are there. These Kharga, Rato, Devo, Chandras, and Vardhanas, then contemporary period. Vardhanas may be another subordinate ruler under the Palas. According to Riyasikapuri, there may be some connections between the Vardhana rulers of Chaprakot inscriptions of Gopala IV and the subordinate ruler under the Pala king Ramapala, as mentioned in the Ramacharita Shandakarnanti. In the 19th century CE, the king and his subordinate rulers established the monastery simultaneously. From the Chaprakot stone inscription of Gopala IV, one can come across that Kalyanavardhan participated in the construction of a Mahabihara instead of a Biharo in the Kosambi, identified with Kushumbi, a place in the northern part of present-day Bangladesh. As per Chaprakot stone inscription, Gopala IV was mentioned as only Nripo, that means king, not using any epithet of political paramountcy. We know that the Khidrapur rebellion was a turning point in the history of the Pala dynasty. During that period, a group of Shamantas became active in the political scenario of North Bengal. Kalyanavardhan was the ruling chief in the post-Khidrapur rebellion phase in the North Bengal. It is a known fact that Rampalo revived the Pala suzerainty with the help of the Pala subordinates during that time. Again, we can see in the history of Southeast Bihar that different subordinate rulers patronized Brahmanical temples or Brahmanas. In 1157 CE, Sartha Devika, the consort of a Mahamandalika, Jakshapala, donated a village and water bodies to Dhavala Sangha. This Dhavala Sangha may be a monastery of Southeast Bihar, not yet discovered in the ruling period of the Madana Pala. Somehow the constructions done by the Pala monarchs are quite different than that of their subordinate rulers. The early Pala rulers built Mahabiharas, such as Udantapuri Mahabihar, may be by the first ruler Gopala I, Shompura by Dharmapalo, and maybe Vikramshila also by him. Devapalo built Gandhakuti and donated gift of land at Nalanda. Devapalo's Nalanda endowment is really important for Balaputra Dev's joint venture for donation. On the occasion of building a Bihariko by the monk, Vipulasri Mitra, Nalanda inscription was composed. He made multiple endowments in different places, and Peter Skilling finds out that names ending in Sri Mitra, such as Gyana Sri Mitra, Buddha Sri Mitra, Vinaya Sri Mitra, Tara Sri Mitra, Upaya Sri Mitra, Shugata Sri Mitra, and Kanaka Sri Mitra appear from the late Pala period. Monks Vipula Sri Mitra and Viradeva made multiple endowments during the Pala period. Most of the Eastern Indian monks of the early medieval period usually donate stupas, images, and manuscripts to the monasteries. They do not mention their lineage, but they sometimes mention the names of their gurus, that is, teachers. According to an inscription of Manjusri Gano of Chaprakota stone inscription, has to be mentioned where a gate is donated by him. Sometimes monks came from outside the region or from distant places. In this regard, we can mention the 11th century Chinese monks who came to Mahabodhi and monks from Kanchi who came to the Apanaka Mahabihara between the 9th and the 11th centuries. Next, I would like to discuss the source materials, what I have used for the discussion of Pala Shino period. There are some literature, some manuscript paintings, and travel accounts. Zhongsang is very important for this period. And there are lots of inscriptions, votive stupas, cultural representations, and architectural remains. And above all, the archaeological explorations and excavations are very, very important for the find out the history of the cultural history of the Pala Shino period. Now I would like to talk about the architectural activities. There are no extant monuments in the region that can be dated prior to the 6th century CE. Before this time, Bengal follows the Indian architectural patterns. After the 6th century, there are regional representations in every sphere of culture in Bengal. It also can be seen in its art and architecture. But of course, there are some regional variations in the post-Gupta fields. There is an interesting trend in the construction of religious architecture, but in comparison to other neighboring states, it is relatively poor in architectural heritage. Maybe there is a lack of durable materials like granite stone in the use of construction. And possibly they have used perishable materials like mud, clay, timber, bamboo, hatches, etc. Along with this, there was the unfavorable climatic condition. It can be assumed that there was the absence of powerful patron classes for the development of organized building activity. Sometimes destruction of temples and monasteries by the rebels and iconoclasts and the reuse of building materials by the inhabitants of the region caused the non-availability of the architectural establishments in this region. Archaeologists are still in search of the foundation of any architectural evidence of that period. That means 8th to 13th centuries. Till date, there are lots of archaeological explorations and excavations carried out by the Archaeological Survey of India and Bangladesh, the Directorate of State Archaeology of West Bengal and Bihar, and different states of Bangladesh. And some universities in both countries have also conducted excavations in this region and successfully unearthed many remarkable findings. Here, I would like to discuss very little about the well-known architecture, that is the Nalanda Mahavihara, Vikramshila, or like this. But I'd like to point out some lesser-known architecture or newly found architecture establishment, what we got from the archaeological excavations. Now I'd like to discuss something about this. During the rule of the early Palas, we can observe the fascinating contributions of the Palo monarchs as well as their subordinate rulers who actively participated in building the monastic establishments in Bengal. The Mahaviharas, that is mega monastic complexes, were normally built by the kings. And one is the Biharas, that is monastery, and the Biharikas, that is smaller monastery, were usually by the Shamantas. For instance, Dharmapala's Mahashamanto, Bhadranaga, built Antarabanika somewhere in an unidentified place in North Bengal. But there are some important and some remarkable Biharas and Mahaviharas in West Bengal, Bangladesh, and Bihar. As mentioned in various inscriptions, sales, sailings, illustrated manuscripts, and the travelers' accounts of different pilgrims, a large number of Buddhist sites in Bangladesh were excavated or explored at different times. Among them, some prominent sites are Dharmapala Deva Mahavihara of Nauga district, that is Paharpur or Sompura Mahavihar, is known as that. Jagaddala Mahavihar in the Nauga district, that is known as Jagaddala Vihar. Bhavadeva Mahavihar in Kumilla district, that is known as Shalibana Vihar, and Ratnatai Brihar also in the Kumilla district, that is known as Kutilabura. Some Biharos, Biharikas, Mahaviharos, and stupas that were mentioned in the inscriptions and manuscripts are yet to be discovered. We have come across some Buddhist religious sites where Buddhist texts were translated from Sanskrit to Tibetan languages in Bangladesh. Besides these sites, there are a large number of explored or excavated sites have been in Bogra, Nauga, Dinajpur, Dhaka, Kumilla, Jeshore, Magura districts of Bangladesh. Now I would like to talk about these are the architecture mainly known from this I have already discussed, so you just go through the points. Now I will discuss about the Cruciform Temple form. It is a very, very important feature of the monastic architecture. Vamana at Jeshore district, Bangladesh, is an excavated site of circa 5th century CE. This is one of the Buddhist temples of cruciform shape in a projected arm and a good number of offset and projected corners. It is the earliest Buddhist temple in Bengal, having a projected arm on each side. The circumambulatory path goes around the temple. Bharatvaina Mount has very significant because the ancient structural remains were exposed by the excavation held in 1997-98. Because the ancient structural remains of this mound have enabled us to form an idea about the plan of the Buddhist temple. It appears to be a prototype of Buddhist temple architecture in Bangladesh. This type of Buddhist temple developed in its fullest form and reached its zenith at Paharpur. The cruciform plan of a Buddhist temple architecture appears to have influenced the temple architecture in Eastern Asia, that is Myanmar, Indochina, and Java, etc. It is gigantic in nature, though it is not a solid brick-built temple. A large number of blind cells are there. Its hollow portion is filled up with sandy soil. So I would like to point out that Bharatbana is the earliest form, though it is not come under the Palashina period. It is before that, but it is the pioneering for the case for the cruciform plan. So what is the cruciform plan? I would like to discuss, and this is the Shompura or Paharpura monastery. And if everyone or most of the people know about the Paharpur monastery. So I will not go into the very detail. Shompura Mahabihar, popularly known as Paharpura Mahabihar, is located in the district of Nauga in the northwest of Bangladesh. Dharmapala, the second ruler of the Pala dynasty, built this monastery in the 8th century as a famous center for education and pilgrimage. It is situated between Kundra Nagara, present Mahastan, and the ancient capital of Pundrabardhana, and the secondary capital at Kottibharsha, that is modern Bangar. Paharpur Mahabihar is noted as one of the largest Buddhist monasteries in the south of the Himalayas. UNESCO declared Paharpur as one of the World Cultural Heritage Sites of Bangladesh in 1985. The monastery has a quadrangular courtyard with high enclosure walls surrounding 177 monastic cells on 4 sides meant for residences for the monks, gateways, a pyramidal central shrine, votive stupas, minor chapels, a tank with a bathing hut, and numerous subsidiary structures in the vast courtyard and a number of subsidiary structures outside. In the center of the courtyard, the lofty shrine, and that is 21 in height, and it covers a 27 square meter area. It's a lofty shrine was built on a cruciform plan with angles of projection between the arms that rises in the 3 gradually diminishing terraces. The basement wall of the temple is embellished with 63 stone bas-reliefs. Below the cornice, bands of terracotta plaques set in recessed panels run in a single row all around the basement. There is a double row around the ambulatory path in the upper terraces. Each corner bears a gargoyle representing a lion's face. The monastery and its wall was built finally in well-burnt bricks of different sizes, and mud was used as material for bonding. Sandstone blocks were also used in different places like doorjambs, lintels, pedestals, etc. Iron is used to join 2 pieces to stone together. The enclosure wall has an entrance on the north and a flight of steps leading to the entrance to the small hall. It is housed within the enclosure and another flight of steps into the inner courtyard. This is the plan of the Paharpur temple. In a courtyard connected to the small hall. The entrance hall is connected to the baranda, running on all sides. Out of 177 cells, there are 45 on the north and 44 on each of the other 3 sides. The opening of all the cells is facing towards the courtyard. The cells are almost square in shape. The east, west, and south walls of the outer walls of the Paharpur monastery have similar types of projections, that is 3 cells and a passage of around them. The north one has a spacious hall with doorways to the cells. The corridor roof might have been supported by pillars. The bases seem to have decorated with terracotta plaques. So let us see the terracotta plaques surrounded by the entire monastic shrine. The central shrine of Shampura Mahabihar Paharpur is an example of an unusual colossal size of the sanctuary. This cruciform structure has 3 terraces, Pancharatha projections on the ground level, a Triratha plan on the 2nd terrace, and a square plan on the 3rd and the topmost level. There is a world production path on the 2nd terrace. Scholars have different opinions regarding the Paharpur shrine. K.N. Dikshit, who excavated the Paharpur, opined that this was a 4-faced joint temple. And S.K. Saraswati, in his book Architecture of Bengal, has tried to identify this monastery as the Sarvatabhadra structure, as mentioned in early Indian literary sources on Vastu Shastra. So, in the case of this cruciform plan, this is Sarvatabhadra, that means here there's a 4 sides opening. Sarvata means the opening from 4 sides, that is called Sarvatabhadra. The cruciform plan in Shampura Mahabihar has a close affinity with that of Bikramshila Mahabihar at Antichok in Bihar and Shalbano Bihar at Mynamati in Kumilla district of Bangladesh. All 3 pieces of architecture belong to the circa 9th century. This cruciform plan of 3 Mahabihar has some similarities with that of the architecture of the later period of Myanmar and Java. More or less close similarity has been found with Ananda Temple at Pagan, that is Bagan, presently called Bagan, and some temples of Java. So we can see that it started from the Bangladesh, Bharatbana, and after that we see in that Vikramshila and Paharpur, and after that it goes to the outside India. But built during the reign of Dharmapala in the 9th century and repaired and renovated first during the time of Mohipala I, and rebuilt with a similar plan and construction details by some Bipulos Mitro century later. This structure is a unique piece of architecture from Bengal. This Shampura Mahabihar, popularly known as Paharpura shrine, can only be compared with the Nalanda Mahabihar or Bikramshila Mahabihar made during the realm of the Palo rulers. So this is the antiquities, 1 or 2 few examples of antiquities. Many have been found. So from there, these are made of stone, and this is the Paharpur. Today, so many terracotta plaques are there. Now we will go to the Bikramshila Mahabihar. This is the, I have taken this photographs from the internet because I have, what photograph I have taken, that was not very fine. So this is also the 4-sided opening. 4-sided opening. This is a cruciform in plan. You can see from here. The Tibetan tradition that Dharmapala with the foundation of Bikramshila in the 2nd of the 8th century, you can see the Dharmapal founded this monastery, and it is known that on the Magod, East Magod. And presently, Patharghata region of Antichok, the Bhagalpur district, can be identified as Bikramshila Mahabihar. And it is important for the academic or monastic establishment. The teachers were exchanged between 2 monasteries, Nalanda and Bikramshila. It has 6 components: the entrance, the veranda, the courtyard, the monastic cells, outer and the inner porches, 4 rectangular chambers. Bikramshila Monastery is bigger than Shampura Monastery of Bangladesh, a monastic ceiling with 3 lines of inscription. In the first line, the Sri Jayashena Deva Mahabiharika Arja Bhikki Sangharsa. So this is the seal that the monks of the Sri Jayashena Deva Mahabihar. This is the Bikramshila Mahabihar is known as Jayashena Deva Mahabihar. Now I'd like to say very few about that. This is the plan of Bikramshila. This is the Nalanda Mahabihar. Without saying little about the Nalanda Mahavir. I cannot go to the other places. So Nalanda is located in the 90 or 95 kilometers southeast of Patna and 11 kilometers north of Rajgir. 11 kilometers north of Rajgir, the ancient Rajagriha in Bihar. Nalanda came into prominence in the 5th century CE in the travel accounts of Fashion and also in the narration of Zhuangzang, that is in the 6th, 7th centuries, in the 7th century. The Sir Alexander Cunningham has rightly identified Nalanda with the place Bargaon, based on some epigraphic evidence that has been found from the site and the above mentioned itinerary records of Fashion and Zhuangzang. The royal patronization of some of the Gupta monarchs contributed to this development as a center of academic performance that was followed by Harshavardhan. Again, under the hegemony of Palo ruler Dharmapalo, it was revived. It functioned over 2 centuries as Mahabihar and an intellectual stronghold of Tantric Buddhism based on esoteric cult, that is Vajrayana. This Nalanda monastery has 3 different types of architectures, stupas, monasteries, and temples. And most of the monasteries are in here of where is mainly identical in their plan. They consist of rows of cells, corridors around the cells. There are spacious courtyards, and in some cases, shrines opposite the entrances. Storage structures are also there. Monk cells have several dimensions. Single-seated, double-seated with provisions of stone beds, lamp holders, bookcases, common kitchens, dining places, everything are there. No separate congregational hall is there. Each separate hall has 3. Separate hall has 3. Oh, disturbing. That is the monastic cells. Next, I will go to the. This is the photo taken from a book. This is a chariot shape. This is the structural evidence. Structural evidence of this is a chariot shape shrine. The wheel is very much there. The structural evidence coming out through the series of excavations in the Nalanda region consists of stupas, monasteries, and temples. Most of the monasteries are identical in their plan, and just I have gone through. I just like to skip this. Now I'd like to talk the other minor viharas and shrines, and these are all in Bangladesh. So if I discuss about all these shrines, it will cannot be completed within this 45 or 1 hour. So I just want to skip, and among these, this Vasuvir is quite important, and Jagaddala Bihar, and I know that Itakhola Mura, Rupavana Mura, and Kutila Mura is very, very important, but others are also important. All these monasteries are within the 6th to 11th centuries. So I'm not discussing about this. One thing I would like to say that here in the Brihatkatha monastery, the plaster known as Vajralep was produced by using plaster materials like sticky clay, dust, sand, etc., mixed with animal glue. It is a unique architectural feature that has not been discovered so far in any ancient monuments in Bangladesh. So this the Vajralep as a mortar is very, very, very important in the history of architecture. And like this, another is Shitakot Bihar. There we can see the toilet complex for the mendicants. There are 5 small cells outside the southeast corner, linked through a passage. Might be the toilet complex for the mendicants. This is also an important feature. So in all these cases, whatever the important or another thing is, there are lots of clay miniature votives in the Shottapira. And the, next I'd like to say that Mandapa is there in the Biharo and such and such. And this Rupavana Mura, the corbelled roof and the semi-cruciform shrine. And the roof of the Bangladesh is, this is the first time that the roof of an ancient building in Bangladesh has been traced. So in the Rupavana Mura, the roof is there. This is interesting. And So I will go to the other places. So many. Now I'll try to show you some newly found, not newly found, already 2 decades has already gone, but it is in the history, not written in the many books. This is Nanda Dirghi Bihar, and this is the pride of our West Bengal. This is the typical plan. Just you have seen, this is not the crucified in plan. This is a separate type of plan. Jagjivanpur, a Nanda Dirghi Bihar, a Jagjivanpur. So I will tell Jagjivanpur. Jagjivanpur, a village in the eastern fringe of the Malda district of West Bengal, is located near the Indo-Bangladesh border on the bank of river Punarbhaga. A large number of chance finds like sculptures, potsherds, and copper plate inscription of the Palo ruler Mahendra Palo, the son and successor of Dharma Palo, have been found in the place and its neighboring regions. After an exhaustive exploration of that area, the Directorate of Archaeology and Museums of West Bengal excavated the site from 1996 to 2005 in different phases. And I am lucky that I have participated in the excavation of 2004. Personally, I have, and I will show you that in the in which portion I was participated for the excavation. Extensive excavations were carried out in the area and unveiled a brick-built monastery with its structural components from the circa 9th century. Among other things, the site has yielded a rich crop of antiquities like terracotta plaques, decorated tiles, iron and terracotta bangles, beads of semi-precious stones, terracotta lamps, potteries, and other items of daily use. Among the most important things, terracotta seals and ceilings unearthed from the site helped to identify the name of the monastery, Nanda Dirghi Bihar. The builder of the monastery was Vajradeva, as known from an inscribed terracotta seal found during the excavation. So Mahendrapal is not the founder of that monastery. One of our subordinate rulers was Vajradeva Senapati. The copper plate charter does not mention the name. This is the total excavation site, and I was there during this time. There you just see, I will see in the show you in the plan that this is the toilet region and connected with this monastery. Why it is there? Some archaeologist is thinking about that. I will discuss it later on. And this is the plan. So it is connecting with this monastery in 6. All these 6 or 7 were there. So this is the toilet definitely, and archaeologists think that, especially Dr. Amal Roy, under whom the excavation was done, he thought that this is a nunnery. Most probably this is the construction of a nunnery, and the female mendicants were there. That's why this was the within the jurisdiction of the, within the complex of the excavation site. Sorry, within the complex of the monastic site, this toilet area. These are the terracotta plaques found from there. So I just want to show you. The copper plate charter not only mentions the name and identified to the king Mahendra Palo, but also helped historians to write the history of Bengal, which is simultaneously important in the scenario of North Indian history and culture. Because before the invention of this copper plate inscription of Mahendra Palo, we do not know that there was a son of Devapalo. So after Devapalo, Mahendra Palo's name is very much there, and the history changed. In the history of Bengal, it was totally changed, the lineage of the Palo rulers. Jagjivanpur, Bihar was built on a quadrangular plan, and sanctuary was accommodated within the back wall of the monastery. The particular Bihar has a different layout than its contemporaries. The entrance of the Bihar is one of the east side of the enclosure wall. The shrine facing the east is within the enclosure wall, opposite the entrance, and opens into the inner courtyard. The courtyard is within its structure of the entire monastery. It has a built-in production path and is fronted with a vestibule. It is connected to the veranda running along 4 sides of the enclosure, connecting the rows of cells. A circular brick structure, probably a stupa, unearthed in the northeastern corner of the inner courtyard. It is made of rammed bricks. I don't know. No, this is not, plan is not here. I'll show you later on. Plan is in the separate slide. So this is important for its drainage system. And we can see there is also evidence to connected drainage in the Biharo similar to Bikramshila, and terracotta tiled pavements used as a pathway in the inner courtyard beside the baranda. There are bricks. Here bricks, that is burnt bricks, were on the only material used. There is no use of stone at all like in other monasteries. The entrance complex is 2 rectangular chambers, a front and rear porch, and a staircase was exposed in the eastern part of the mound. A brick structure with 7 square chambers and outlets with soak pits has been identified as a bathing or toilet, and a circular structure which could be a well was also uncovered. The excavator Dr. Amalray described this monastery as a fort monastery due to the moat and with circular bastions at 4 external corners. It is proved by the excavators that it is not an isolated site. Jagjivanpur monastery was part of the settlement complex, and there was a linkage between a monastic site and its surroundings. Among the materials found from this site was a solitary monastic ceiling bearing Dharmachakra and deer motif and the name of the monastery, Nandadirghi Biharo. Besides this, a bronze image of Marichi, ornamented bricks, pottery, and more than 250 terracotta plaques were found from a single Mount Tulavita. There is a thematic similarity with that of Paharpur, Mohastan, and Mynamati. However, narrative themes are conspicuously absent in Jagjivanpur. So these are the independent things. Now I would like to show you the another monastery newly found, that is Prathama Shivapura Mahavihar, that is in the Telhara region. It is very interesting because this is the largest. It is larger than the Paharpur, Jagjivanpur, and this is the largest monastery. Recently excavated, I mean at least 8 to 10 years back, excavated Buddhist monastic site Telhara is 29 kilometers far from Nalanda in Bihar. From the exploration of nearby areas of Telhara, the archaeologists have been able to find out a large number of Buddhist and Brahmanica sculptures, some of which are still worshipping in different localities. The site has been identified with Teladhaka by Zhuangzang in the 7th century, and then the place was visited by Alexander Cunningham in 1862, A.M. Broadley in 1872, J.D. Begler in 1878, and many other archaeologists and art historians in the 20th and 21st centuries. Among various antiquarian remains, there is an inscribed pillar bearing the name of the site Teladhaka. Zhuangzang mentioned in this travel accounts that he crossed the place Tilosikya, that is identified as Teladhaka, located between the Pataliputra and Champa. Champa, it is South Bihar. After a long gap, D.R. Patil, Frederick Asher, Janel Hyosoko paid attention to the site. A.K. Verma excavated this potential site in 2009 and again in 2012-13 and unfurled numerous sculptures, epigraphic materials, structural edifices, and so on. The Directorate of Archaeology, Government of Bihar, undertook a systematic excavation at Bulandi Mound, one of the mounds of the site. They discovered a stupendous brick structure of a monastic establishment. A large number of artifacts have been unearthed from the site. Among them are stone and bronze sculptures, inscribed and uninscribed terracotta clay tablets, ceilings, etc. of 11th century. The most important artifacts is a terracotta ceiling with a 2-line inscriptions in the lower register written in a Sanskrit language and mature Siddhamatrika script of the 8th-9th centuries. Reads Sri Prathama Shiva Pura Mahabihara Arja Vikku Sangharsha. The ceiling has to register. The upper register bears the Dharmachakra deer, followed by 2 lines of writing above and abstract design motifs. This official seal of the Telhara monastery identified this Buddhist monastic site as Prathama Shiva Pura, identified with Tila Shika or Tila Shika of Zhuangzang accounts. The work of excavation on this site is still going on. Shilahara is an important archaeological site next to Nalanda Monastery in Bihar. In view of different archaeologists, Shilahara represents one of the most significant monastic sites in eastern India. It can be considered by the archaeologists and the art historians that this is one of the most important data for the study of the early history of Bengal. Now I would like to show you, this is the site of Shilahara region. So many examples are there, materials are there. I have selected few of them. And one thing I would like to say, there are the bastions in the Nandadilgi Mahabir, that is the bastions at the four corners. It is also in the Shilahara. I'll show you. And in the line drawing, there is, these are the Shilahara monastery. One thing, this is there from this Shilahara, one inscription is very interesting that I have not discussed here. That is the caution inscription. Just see, inscription written in Sanskrit, probably written just before the destruction of the Tiladaka Mahabir. They thought that it was before the destruction. He who tries to destroy the monastery is either a donkey or a bull. Below the stone, the inscription is images of two animals. So this is the first where we can get in the monastery the caution inscriptions. But in the independently in the Bihar region, we are also in the Bangladesh also, we are getting some caution inscriptions are there. Some imprecatory lines are there. But in the monastic level, it is very new. And the votive stupas are also there. 6 foot tall votive stupas. Usually votive stupas are very little in size, but it is a 6 foot tall votive stupas. It's a very important. Now we'll go to the another side. This is the Lakhisarai. It is also in the Bihar. This is the first hilltop Buddhist monastery. Lakhisarai is situated between Nalanda and Vikramshila, the two religio-educational centers of early medieval India. It is the location of the place that can be situated on the old Pataliputra Tamralipti route via Champa. Lakhisarai is situated on the confluence of three important rivers, Ganga, Haruhar, and Kiul, and the three ancient cultural zones, Anga, Magadha, and Mithila. The modern town Lakhisarai is situated between the two hillocks, Lal Pahari and Kali Pahari. And Lal Pahari in the Lakhisarai district of Bihar, a series of excavations have been conducted by a team of archaeologists of Vishwabharati, headed by Professor Anil Kumar. An 11th-12th century monastery has been unearthed with various extraordinary features. A wooden votive tablet. This is the only place from where we can get the votive tablets in the wooden piece, which is unique for, as my knowledge is concerned, along with the other antiquities has been found in this place. This is the first Buddhist monastery that had a chief woman monk named Bijayasri Bhadra, who received the donation from the Palo Queen Mallika Devi. From the archaeological sites, a volume of metal bangles has been found, which is very unusual in nature. The excavators claimed that this is an independent nunnery, because many bangles have been found from this place. So this is also a nunnery. The location of this monastery, as well as architectural features, highly protected structure with 3 bastions in each corner, interconnected cells with evidence of doors, and a large number of bangles, earrings, and finger rings are a more evidence to prove this recently excavated monastic structure as a women monastery of the early medieval period. Lakhisarai appears thus to be located at the crossing of the least 2 roads, one going towards Nepal and Tibet, and one going eastwards. Along these roads were discovered testimonies of a Buddhist presence, at times belonging to the 11th-12th centuries, that is contemporary to the material unearthed at Lakhisarai. Diligent and systematic excavation has exposed structural remains of a burnt brick-built Buddhist monastery on a stone masonry foundation with plenty in early medieval Eastern India. I have already told that in the Nandadirgi Mahavihar, there is no use of stone at all. But in the Lakhisarai Bihar, the base is, the foundation is done by the stone. Two bastions in both corners also expected the structural design of the monastery. Southeastern corner of the monastery design of a floor and brick wall is suggesting the possibility of the existence of bastions. The site of it is a structural site that is constructed basically of existence of bastions. The site is a structural site that is constructed basically of bricks and lime plastered floor. The bricks that were used for of different sizes. In the late 10th and 11th centuries, Lakhisarai produces a variety of Buddhist images, that the Brahmanical ones. During the period, Hindu images are very rare in quantity. Claudine Baudsipikran, a renowned scholar on Indian iconography, studied a large number of icons hailed from Lakhisarai and its adjoining regions. There is a lot of evidence that Lakhisarai was the production center of sculptures in the early medieval period. There are a lot of controversies regarding the stone quarry during this period. Claudine, Frederick Asher, D.K. Chakravarti, Anil Kumar, and many other scholars have worked on it. Evidence for the source of stone, scribes or artisans, and a large number of sculptures clearly suggest that this was a big center for manufacturing sculptures in the early medieval period. So this is the aerial view of the Sima Dharma Bihar, and in the Lakhisarai, the name we are getting from the Sima Dharma Bihar. And these are the few, and this Claudine has identified this image as dancing bodhisattvas. The dancing image in the bodhisattva is very rare of its kind, but from Lakhisarai, it was this. The Sima Dharma Bihar, we got a seal. Dozens of wooden votive tablets we have got from there. This is the application. So another thing is very important, that is the evidence of application of red, yellow, green, white, and black colors on lime plastered floors makes the architecture of this monastery the first of its kind on the map of Eastern Indian Buddhist establishment. The color has been used here. Now I'll go to the another important site of West Bengal discovered recently, but not recently, at least 10 to 15 years. But it is important, but not comes within the jurisdiction during the Palo period. Still, it is important in the case of, because from here we are getting two important things in the monastic field. Moghalmari is a village in the West Medinipur district of West Bengal. Periodical excavations conducted at Moghalmari proved the site as one of the most important Buddhist sites in West Bengal. The Department of Archaeology, University of Calcutta, had excavated this site from 2003 to 2012 in 6 academic sessions. After that, Directorate of State Archaeology has taken to initiate the excavation there. A team of archaeologists did horizontal excavation at the site and exposed a Triratha structural remains. There was also a square platform that might have been a part of a sanctum. Besides this, the excavators found several decorated bricks from the debris, 2 monastic cells, and an outer wall of the monastic complex. This structure unearthed a massive wall bearing decorative panels of stucco. This is important. We are getting so many large number of stucco images from this site, of this Moghalmari site. It is unique feature of the monastic complex, the stucco figures. This is the only known monastic establishment in Eastern India where we get the stucco decorative elements on the wall. There are niches in regular intervals separated by rectangular pilasters. The floor of the circumambulatory path was surki batted. The next phase of excavation discovered the stupa base. Even the unearthed steps proved the entrance gateway of the monastic complex. A guard wall was built at a later stage, which was made to support the stucco decorated wall. It attests to the three structural activities, the monastic complex of the 6th-7th century, and again a structural phase approximately dated to 11th-12th century. See, here stucco has been used as a building material also. An inscribed seal bearing the personal name Sri Varma found from here. And one of my friends, Dr. Durga Basu, she was in the Department of Archaeology and participated in this excavation. She has a good writing on the stucco. The monastic site of Mogolmari not only represents the largest Buddhist site in West Bengal with vast antiquities, but also the evidence of a dual monastery to the Buddhist archaeological repertoire of Bengal. Even the monastery has close connections with South and Southeast Asia. A number of clay tablets bearing Ye Dharma stanzas were written in Brahmi characters in the 6th century. 5 Buddha figures in peculiar postures, still unknown postures, also have been relieved on the seals. This type of molded and inscribed clay tablet has a close similarity with that of South and Southeast Asian specimen. This in situ life-size stucco figures on the niches of the monastic wall and the lime plasters of the wall are noteworthy in the case of this monastery. Among various excavated specimens, one image of Jambhala, a dancing couple, a broken figure of stone Buddha seated in Bhumisparsha Mudra are noteworthy. Surrounding the structural area, there were large water bodies forming a moat, and the existence of a mud wall looked like a rampart wall. Dr. Sheshadri, I would like to take few more times. If
Sure,
you find...
sure. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. We have time. Okay.
Now I will try to switch over to the Pilak or Baksanagar in Tripura because it is very close, our neighboring state. A number of Buddhist and Brahmanical remains have been found through the archaeological investigations held in Tripura. Among them, a few sites are to be mentioned here. Shamsundar Tila and Thakurani Tila are two notable archaeological sites of Pilak. Brahmanical and Buddhist remnants of the place are very important. In Western Tripura, Baksanagar is also well known for its archaeological mound and antiquities found therein. There are two Buddhist centers in the state of Tripura. One is Shamsundar Tila in South Tripura and the other is located at Baksanagar in West Tripura. The excavation has been undertaken at Shamsundar Tila in different phases, discovering the brick-built stupa, cruciform in plan, also resembles that of Paharpur in Bangladesh. Similar type of stupa with cruciform plan can be found in Shompura, that is Paharpur, Shalvana Bihar, Bhojo Bihar, Itakula Mura in Mynamati, and Bikramshila Monastery of Bihar. The Pancharatha order intervened with 4 wide openings in 4 cardinal directions. This is the 4 cardinal directions of openings, and there is the steps. This number 1, this is the staircase. Number 2, this is the open pillared baranda. This is the open pillared baranda. And number 3 is the mandapa. This is the mandapa. And this is the circumambulatory path. Number 4, this. And number 5 is Garbhagriha. And number 6 is platform with sculpture. This is number 6. So this all are in the same axis. Next, I would like to discuss about the Baksanagar. Another Buddhist site in the Tripura, Baksanagar, noteworthy for its brick-built massive stupa. It is 40 km west of Agartala in Tripura. Its location is very close to Kumilla district of Bangladesh. Massive stupa has been excavated, which is spread over more than 3 acres of land. Its height is more than 10 meters from the ground. So can you imagine its height and its breadth? This burnt brick stupa is square in plan and in the basement. It possesses 3 offsets on 3 sides. The medhi is gradually tapering set the burnt bricks and mud mortars. The notable artifacts found from the central chamber are ceilings and votive tablets made of clay, votive stupas, etc. The inscribed ceilings of circa 7th, 8th century bear the Buddhist creed. Similar types of ceilings and votive stupas have been found in Mynamati of Kumilla district of Bangladesh. Another chaitya with a rectangular plan has also been found in the excavation. The superstructure is also damaged. It is a 7th-8th century Buddhist establishment found at Boxanagar that may have belonged to the Khargos. Khargos are the contemporaries or the near contemporaries of the Palus. Now I'd like to, this is the circular central hall of Pilak. I have discussed the 4 types. This is, I will not discuss the details of stupas. Between 600 and 900 AD, there are lots of stupas, and these are the sites. And the Biharos. Regarding the Biharos, we can see the 3 types of quadrangular plan with cruciform sanctuary in the center. That is, we can see in the Daton, that is Moghalmari, Shalban, Bihar, Sompuro, and Bikramshila. That is quadrangular plan with cruciform sanctuary in the center. Please remember, this is, I will show you the plan. And another is quadrangular plan with sanctuary accommodated within the back wall. I will show you. And Bihar with separate monastic and shrine complexes. So Bihar is a separate and shrine is the separate complex. Now, this is the important cruciform temple plan for the Sharbata Bhadra temple. What is Sharbata Bhadra temple? The temple of Bharadvana at Jashur in Bangladesh is cruciform in plan, and it is the earliest simple cruciform Buddhist temple in Bangladesh that has a projected arm on each side and a circumambulatory path at the foot. It has a resemblance to a cruciform temple of Shalabana Bihar and also Bhojo Bihar Pari, Ananda Bihar, Rupavana Mura, Mynamati Prasad temples, etc. A cruciform temple type has a long projected side arms. This is the cruciform temple form. Paharpur, and this is the Bharadvana. Cruciform temple plans has a long projected side arms on 3 sides. A unique development appears to be first emerged in Bangladesh. It is an important contribution to the history of archaeology. Its full and final development can be traceable in the Sompura Bihar, that is Paharpur. In the Rajshahi district, Antichok in the Bihar monastery, which were built by the Palo ruler Dharmapalo in the 9th century. This 4-faced temple, that is Sharbata Bhadra, this is 4-faced, 4 sides are open, is called Sharbata Bhadra, was built mainly based on a cruciform plan. These Sharbata Bhadra temples of the Mynamati region can be compared with the same type of temples of Nalanda in Bihar, Kapilavastu in Nepal, Takshashila in Pakistan, and Barabudur in Java. So we can see the Sharbata Bhadra is a cruciform, another shrine. And we have seen it in the Jagjivanpur, that is Nandadirgi Bihar, and the Jagdala Bihar, there's a bastions. Then at the 4 corners, we can see the bastions, and the others are the sails, and this is the stupa in the courtyard portion, and the post holes are there. So this is very interesting, and these bastions are important in the monastic field. There are so many types. There are only the courtyard is in the center, and the monastic cells are there. And others are in the same complex, this type of, this is a Vasubihar case. And then the Bhojo Bihar, the cells are all the surrounding the sites in the cruciform in plan. And the shrines, Rupavana Mura, where is Bihar is a separate one and the shrine is a separate one. And in the Mynamati Prasad, there is a Bihar and the shrine that is almost attached, not in the separate form. So we can see the different types of, and now we can see the another types of, these are all, we are going to the, this is Mynamati Prasad, and so Harishchandra shrine is the separate and the Bihar is the separate one. Now we'll go to the Mynamati complex. This is another Pandit Bhila, Bihar Dhap it is called. So this is a terracotta, this is the terracotta plaques are there, but not there in situ. They are all kept in the museum. So in the Bangladesh, we can see the lots of Brahmanical and monastic sites. All the colored portions are, this is a Rajshahi Naoga district, this is the Kumilla region, and this is a Jeshore region. So in the clusters form, so you can see that the monastery is coming from there. Now I want to switch over to the temples. These are the cluster area of the temples of the in West Bengal, where this early medieval, this is a Tapala period temple. This is also the another. I will say about the Barakat temple and the Telkupi temple type. These two I will discuss. There are two phases of temple. I'll take a few minutes, not more than that. These are two phases in the Bengal architecture, that is the 6 to 900 and 900 to 1200. So in this case, we see these are the main temple area, and this is another temple area. So here we can see the Latina type of, what is Latina, I will discuss later on. The stone built and brick built, two types of temples are there. And here we can see, this is the Latina. Latina is used in the temple structure. We will give that they are, and in Bengal, we are getting this type of temple. And there are parts, different shapes of that. This is the Latina. This is almost, looks like almost a Shilahara temple, but there is some differences between that. But we have a close similarity with the Odisha region. And this is the Telkupi type. These are two, this is the Latina type, and among them in Bengal, one type is the Barakat type. This is based on the name of the region, and another is Telkupi. That is also a place where the temple, many temples were found, but very few are existing. So this is what is the difference between that? This is only the portion, Bhadrakona. This is the Adicule, Latina Adicule portion, and now it is attached. It is attached. This Balabi pattern, this type of, we have seen it in the Balabi. In the Balabi, this type of portion, the structure we can see. This was attached to this portion. So in the, this was not there, but in the Telkupi region, we can see that this Balvi type of structures, some parts here and here, this was attached. And this line drawing is mainly based on the Adam Hardy's work. And I am really grateful to Dr. Ajay Khare. He has a book on temple architecture of Eastern India. And from that book, I have taken, and he has also taken some points from my book, that is Architectural Motifs. So it's a very interesting that we shared each other. So in that case, we can see that most of this in the Jharkhand region and the West Bengal and Odisha few, that is the Barakat temple type Latina mode. This is the early temples of Bengal. All of this 9th century and few are 10, 11th century also. And this is also the early temples. This is the Latina mode is there. Here we can see the Telkupi varieties, Telkupi type. So it is mainly in the based on Odisha, West Bengal region and Bakura, Purulia, Anchal. And this is the brick built. This is mainly in the West Bengal. Some existing temples are in the Purulia and South Chobis Pargana, Bardhaman district, Bakura, in the West Bengal region, 10th, 11th century. So there are three types of temples. So this is the most interesting one. You can see this temple are all the submerged. So let us talk about keeping in this temple. From the 8th century onwards, there was a sharp rise in temple building activities in Bengal. It was primarily the Pala rulers who patronized art and architectural activities in the region. With the emergence of Tantric Buddhism, that is Vajrayana, along with Mantrayana and Tantrayana, in the early medieval period, image worship of the construction of sacred monuments gained new momentum. The Buddhist stupas, biharas, and temples discovered in various places like Paharpur, Mynamati, Mogulmari, Jagjamanpur, etc., belong to the early phases of Bengal architecture, that is 600 to 900 AD. And we do not get any temple of that period. The later phase of the Bengal architecture belongs to the period of the 900 CE. As we all know that Indian temple architecture is mainly divided into two broad categories, Nagara and Dravido. Nagara tradition is present in northern, western, and eastern India, and the Dravido in the rest of India. There are three modes of Nagara version of temple architecture: Latina, Balavi, and Functional. I have shown you this. This is the Latina, Balavi, and Functional. This is the Nagara variety. The Latina and Functional modes are known in Bengal and Odisha. Latina and this is Bengal and Nagara. In the Odishan terminology, Latina and Functional are called Rekho and Piradev respectively, whereas the Balavi type is known as Khakara. This is called Khakara temple in the Odishan temple architecture. The early temple architecture from 800 to 1200 of Bengal finds mainly in the Latina mode. We are getting the most of the temples in the Latina mode. There is only one extant temple in the 9th century in Bengal that appears in the mature Latina mode of the Nagara tradition. We do not have many surviving examples of Balavi and Functional types of temples from the early period in Bengal. But various fragmentary sources of the Palo-Sena period, it is absolutely clear that Balavi and Functional as two different modes of temple building were also well known to the builders of Bengal. Latina shrines were found in Magadha, South Bihar, Northern Bengal, Barendra, and Eastern Bengal as known for different votive sculptures and stone tablets. It is interesting to note that the extant temple structure in Latina form is found only in the West and South Bengal. The main centers of temple buildings in Bengal are on the banks of rivers such as Kashai in Purulia, and Darakeshwar in Bankura, and Damodar in Bardwan and Purulia. The Latina temples found in eastern India were built using stone and brick, both available in the region in the 9th century CE. There are two types of stone-built Latina temples in Bengal, named after the places they appeared first, Barakat type and the Telkupi type. This is the scene of Telkupi. When the Damodar Valley Corporation, DVC, has started to construct the dam, all these temples were submerged. We are very unlucky, so that only one book on Telkupi was written by Debala Mitra, the first female Director General for Archaeological Survey of India. She has written the book on Telkupi. It's a monograph, and there he has documented the photographs. We mainly depend on that. But now if we go to the Telkupi region, we can see few temples of that. He is one of my students, has done MPhil on this particular Telkupi region. He went personally, and I have taken the photographs from him. And this is when the summer, few temples can be seen. So we will discuss about the Barakat type of temples. This is the Telkupi type. Barakat type of temples first appeared in the Damodar Barakat Valley on the route of Tamluk from Varanasi. The plan of this Latina type of temple is square. The major parts of the elevation are Mandavar, Shikharo, and Mastako, with their adicular components and niches. It can be said that the 9th century Barakat temple type in Bengal is a direct descendant of the Parashurameshwar temple type of Odisha. Latina temples built in brick after the 10th century were influenced by the Barakat type when they started using temple edifices on the faces of the Latina shrines. Now we are talking about the Telkupi types. Telkupi type of temple is the most important temple building center in Purulia district of Bengal on the river Damodar. It was the capital of Shekhara Bhum, one of the 18 Bhum regions of Bengal, the land ruled by the Shilahara Dynasty. Telkupi is the corrupted form of Tailakampi, the capital of Rudra Shikhara, one of the confederate chiefs who helped Ramapala to crush the Koivattu rebellion, as mentioned by Shandakara Nandi in his Ramacharita. There are 26 brick temples at Telkupi in the Purulia district. These temples of 12th century lie submerged under the river Damodar for most of the year. They become visible only in the summer months. The architectural features of these temples have a close similarity to the Odishan temples of the 11th century CE. This has been pointed out both by N.K. Bose, an authority on Odishan architecture, and Debala Mitra, the first lady director of Archaeological Survey of India. In the far 8th century, at the beginning of the Palo period, Telkupi started its temple building activities, which are important evidence for the architecture of the Latina temples in eastern India. Telkupi cannot be regarded as an independent center of temple building, as many contemporary centers of temple buildings in nearby areas have been shown similar architectural characteristics in their temples. The Telkupi type also influenced the temple building activities of the nearby region like Banda. This is the temple of Banda. Banda is well-preserved temple and it resembles that of temple of 18 of Telkupi. Devalamitra stated in her book Telkupi that indeed the correspondence is so close and fundamental that both seem to have the work of one school of architects. So there may be one school of architects. In this period, Bengal produced many Brahmanical temples that bear a close resemblance to the type of temples found in Odisha. On the basis of the architectural motifs found in manuscript illustrations, votive temples and relief sculptures, and a few extant monuments of the 9th, 10th century, 9th to 12th centuries, S.K. Saraswati has classified the Bengal temples into into four categories: Bhadra Deul, Rekho Deul, and Shikhara Shisha Bhadra Deul, Stupa Shisha Bhadra Deul, and Chaitya Garbha Deul. The Bhadra Deul motifs generally exhibit only the three principal parts, Baragondi and Mastaka, with Amalaka as the finial. An important and almost common feature of the Bhadra Deul motif is the Pira, which is separated from one another by a khandi. The Bhadra Deul motifs also show Triratha and Pancharatha projections. Rekho or Shikhara Deul of temple architecture can also be seen in the architectural motifs of the Palashino art. Quantitatively, however, they are fewer in number than motifs of Bhadra and composite type Deuls. One of the best examples of Rekho or Shikhara Deul motif is depicted in a stone sculpture of Buddha seated in Bhumiswarsha from Shivabadi, Bangladesh. These are all, we are getting the information from the architectural motifs from the sculptures. There are, however, quite a few surviving brick or stone temples of this kind in Bengal. Now I'll discuss these are getting the Shivabadi temples. All these are motifs, and from these motifs we are getting the information about the Shikhara, the Rekho type of Deul. And these are the composite form of Deul. These are also these are the Chaitya Garbha Deul, and it is interesting because this Chaitya Garbha Deul is very interesting because the Deul motifs often altogether different type can also be seen in sculptures and paintings of the period. These were not getting the extent, but it was very much there because we are getting in the sculptures and it is in the painting, and other examples are also there. Designated as Chaitya Garbha Deul motifs, these motifs are essentially Buddhist in inspiration. Bearing a few, the deity installed in a Chaitya Griha is usually Marichi. In all the cases, we see that Marichi is there. A dominant goddess in the Mahayana pantheon. The depiction of Varnashabari, Namasangiti, Ashokakanta Marichi inside a Chaitya Garbha. Chaitya means Stupa Garbha, within the womb of the Chaitya. Chaitya Griha is Marichi. The depiction of Varnashabari, Namasangiti, Ashokakanta Marichi within a Chaitya Griha or Chaitya Guha Garbha deserves special attention in this context. Representations of Chaitya Garbha Deul motifs are found in both stone and pigment. From this description of the residing places, Chaitya Garbha and Chaitya Guha Garbha, it seems that the term Chaitya means shrine. Nothing much is known about the principal elements of such religious edifices from any text, but from the use of the above two terms in Sadhanamala and a close scrutiny of the representations of such edifices in the sculptural and pictorial works of the period, it appears that the shrine looked like a barrel-vaulted niche with superstructure. Now I want to show you some pictures I skipped at that time. This is if we compare these temples with the Odisha, then Bengal pattern and the Odisha pattern are almost very close, not the similar, but the very close. And this is the one thing we can see in the Bengal type of temple, this type of arch. This is you can see in different temples. These are all brick built. So there is not very decorative or any, still some things are, these are the Telkupi region. And now I am going to my concluding portion. That from manuscript paintings, we are also getting this type of structure. This is a composite, this is the pavilion, and this ambulatory path with the railings are there, and the pyramidal roofs with the shikhara top. And this is a silk banner. And we know the banner is a commodity used in the Buddhist worship of Buddhist religion. So it is very, very important, this silk banner. These are made of silk. And this is the observations. So not only this, before going to this, the final, I think this is the final. Before going to this final observation, I will say in the scattered manner. For the Cruciform Temple plan, I have discussed already that it is a Sarvata and the Cruciform plan is very much important. And now, this is an impressive contribution of the Palo rulers to the Buddhist monasteries. The building was used as a religious institution that was patronized not only by the kings, but also by the monks and subordinate rulers of the contemporary periods, and even the women also. They also sponsored the institution for its maintenance and development. All these have been done only to acquire merit for himself and his predecessors. If we categorize the monastic establishments according to their foundations, we may mention the names of Nalanda and Vikramshila first, and then the others the next. Lalmai Mynamati became the stronghold before the advent of the Palo rulers in Bengal, and it became the most reputed and important Buddhist center for its socio-religious and politico-economical activities, and also its cultural and educational activities. This Mynamati group of monuments became popular for its flourishing cultural heritage in Buddhist world. It can be compared with Nalanda in Bihar, Kapilavastu in Nepal, Takshashila in Pakistan, and Borobudur in Java. Lalmai Mynamati region represents 4 building and rebuilding periods. The first period demarcates the ruinous base of the cruciform shrine. In the second period, the temple was reduced in its form, and the plan was converted into a rectangular one that enclosed a compound wall in front. And some additional cells were built during this phase. In the third period, many projections and offsets with multiple projections were accommodated, and niches with terracotta panels were used for decorative purposes. These vibrant Buddhist networks are still continuing with the advent of various newly found architectural establishments during the Palo regime. So far, with the circumstantial evidence in our hand, it can be surmised that the monastic activities like the cruciform ground plan in the Sarvata temple started their journey from the Bharat, which is a prototype of its kind, reached the Myanmar, Indonesia, the China and Cambodia. Some scholars believe that from the outside India, from that region, this Sarvata plan is coming in India, but it is not true, because in the text on Vastu Shastra, we are getting the information about the Sarvata. So it is very much of our architectural activities, and it may be from here went to that place. So I think in the just conclusion, the contribution, what is the contributions of the Palos and Shenos in the art and architectural field? This is a 4 century long Eastern Indian School of Medieval. They have this is coined as Eastern Indian School of Medieval Sculpture by the R.D. Banerjee, Rakhaldas Banerjee, and initially begins in the 9th century, and a sober and real expression of religious experience in delineating images, particularly the divine ones in the context of sculptural art. But in the case of architectural activities in Eastern India under the Palo rulers, the great monasteries such as Sompura Mahabihar, that is Paharpur, Bangladesh, Vikramshila and Tichak, Bihar, were noteworthy. The early Palos were mainly Buddhist. They patronized the Mahabiharos of the Gupta period like Nalanda, Udantapuri and Rajagriha. Some early Palo period Brahmanical temples are to be mentioned here, which are termed as Bongo style temples by Krishna Deva in his monumental encyclopedic work on Indian temple architecture in multiple volumes. In that, so it is, I think that in the 9th century Siddheshwar temple in the Baraka region, the Bardwan district, is the earliest temple of the Nagara tradition built under the Pala ruler still existing. And the Jata Deul in the South 25 Parganas, that is also of 975 Christian in the Common Era. And this is only inscribed. Then we can get the inscriptions from that temple. So these are the all about Palashino architectural activities. I think I should complete here. And these are the, you have already seen my observations in the, I will not read out all these things. So this is one thing from the Chaitagarbha Deul motif. There may be a sort of cave or monolithic architecture that was developed during this Palashina period. But till the period, till date, there is not any excavated area or any find out. Only we have to depend on the architectural motifs. So we should not ignore the architectural motif, what is in the sculptural art or in the landscape paintings as a source materials for the study of the Palashina history of Bengal and Bihar. So that's all. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you want to close the video? I mean the screen that you have shared.
Okay.
Have you on full screen, and then we can discuss. Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah, this is fine. Thank you. Just a few questions, observations. There are some questions also from people, following this talk. So I'm largely dividing the content as the Buddhist structures, from when it comes to the architecture that you talked about, and then some of the Hindu ones, where again, let me go into the questions a little down the line. So one interesting thing that I could see, looking at the viharas across India, and I have not seen any of the ones in, I've not visited the ones that you talked about, the Nalanda, Vikramashila, and also Somapura, that Paharpur one. Everything that we have seen starting from Ajanta and some of the other places is more like your Jagjibanpur, Lakhisarai kind of a model, which is a sort of a square layout. There's a large hall at the center. There is a Buddha icon at the back, which you can see from the entrance. And then there are cells all around for the monks to stay. Right. This model is the simplest and the most, even in the Eastern India. For example, we have visited in Odisha, Lalitagiri, Ratnagiri, and
that golden triangle.
Yes, they all follow the same method, the same square model, but not the Sarvatobhadra model. So in a sense, I think it is. I vaguely remember what we saw in Takshashila a long time back. I don't remember seeing something like this, though you did mention that Takshashila is also like the Nalanda and Vikramashila. Is that the case?
No, that is in the case of monastic ideas, but not in the
not in the layout and architecture.
No, not in the same. Not a single monastery is the same with others. So we can see the few things is similar, but not all in the case. Just like in Ananda temple at Bagan.
Okay.
There we can see this cruciform plan. And from there, Ken Dixit told that this is a joint temple. This is Sharvatamukhi, Chaumukho is the four-sided openings are there. That's why he is trying to say that it is a joint temple architecture. But Iske Saraswati Kumar Saraswati is very much interested to say that this is a Sharvatabhadra plan of that.
Okay. Now, again, you correctly pointed out that the Vastu Shastras already talk about that. For example, you have the earlier Gupta temples set up in the form of Sarvatobhadra, like in Devgad temple. So it is, Sarvatobhadra is a very well-known Indian concept, but to apply it to a vihara,
Bihar.
is a probably.
No, that's why. That's why there is a tradition that in the Bihar there is a separate shrine, and in some cases the shrine is within the complex of the Bihar.
Yes.
So in that case, it is a shrine. It may be a temple. We are not using the term the temple. That's why we are mainly using the term shrine. That is an architectural monument. So it is better to use the shrine instead of using the monastery or any stupa.
And all stupas are Sarvata Bhadra in a sense, because you have a gateway around, you have the four.
Yeah, just complete. You just complete.
No. I mean, I'm saying, the approach to a stupa, there are four gateways anyway, then the cardinal directions. Maybe the entry into that, it's completely sealed effectively, right? So you are, in a sense, the approach from all four sides is not a new concept, be it in Buddhist or in the Hindu temple models.
No, I think that in the case of stupa, it is a solid in foundation. So you cannot enter and go from that side.
Correct. No, I'm only talking about the approach to the circumambulatory path around the
circumambulatory path. That is a circular in form, and later on they're not in the cardinal points. You're talking about the four toranas like this.
Right.
Yes,
the four
toranas.
Yeah.
At the four corners and at the outside, the four toranas are there, but not in the case of this is the projected, and this is a rectangular form, and this is not the same as the Buddhist stupas. That's why
I'm not saying it's the same. It is sort of the ideas.
Maybe
did not be completely alien, that it has to come from somewhere outside. But it's very interesting, that the whole set of the Buddhist viharas that you've shown, they're really interesting, very, very nice, neat, compact designs. And are we finding also the Buddha sculptures related to that place, the various bodhisattvas, have they all been found, located?
Yes,
after excavation?
Because they are mainly some Mahajani tantric phase, so lots of sculptures with Mahajana phase pantheon are there. So I am not included here because it is mainly that will take much time. So
no, but we are getting sculptures. Where are they placed? Are they available at the site, or have they been moved to a different location?
Yes. Only in the Mynamati, if you go, you can see the structure. The head is not there. From the bust, the lower portion, Buddha is seated in the Bhumisparsha Mudra. That you can see in situ. That is in the Mynamati. But in other cases, most of the sculptures are taken to the museums, and mostly they have taken in the site museum, and otherwise, or in any district museum or in the state museum.
Okay. The other interesting thing, which is very distinct and very Bengali, is the terracotta. I'm still, talking about the viharas. That you showed a series of terracotta images additionally. Yes. Besides the stone images that I'm sure are found, you also have the terracotta images. Right? Again, have they all been catalogued, identified, and how much of Jataka tales have been reflected there in these depictions?
This is interesting that I have already told that there is no narrative art in this.
Narrative art at all?
No narrative art. So, but sometimes we are getting a hunting scene or any few theme that is a monoscenic anything in a single panel that is there, but that is not related to the Jataka stories. No one can relate it that this is the coming from Jataka stories. It's a separate one, either in the tribal people or in any religious deities are there, like, or any social scenes. But one thing in the Paharpur, Vikramshila or Nalanda, we are getting the terracotta plaques. Even in the Jagjivanpur, Nanda Dilgi Bihar, but only in the Mughal Mari. That's why it is before the 7th, 8th centuries. But I show you for that purpose that this is in the stucco, only in the stucco. So use of stucco in the eastern region monastic area is very, very, very important. They use stucco for the making the sculptures as well as for the temple building. This is interesting in the monastic period.
Which you mentioned. When you say we are, stucco for sculpture, that I understand. Stucco as a building material, you are talking about with the brick and mortar kind of a model.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Which is understandable again because of the availability of material. Lack of stone automatically lets you, and then a large availability of clay of a very high quality silt from the rivers. It is very natural that you just use that as your building material.
Yes,
so that's understandable. Okay. Thank you. I mean, it shows the kind of places that those of us across India needs to identify and visit to get a feel for them. Now, coming to the temples, the stone built versus brick built. What is a significant difference between them? I'm talking about the Latina type temples that you are talking about. How is a stone built, the Rekanagara Latina variety is Latina variety is different from a brick built Latina?
No, that there is no difference between the stone. Only difference is the material used.
Specifically in the elements, is there anything added, removed? Because the material allows for it or does not allow for it?
No, actually for the material is available. You have already told that material clay is very much available here. And but if some brick built structure is also existing, but most of them are already gone. So in that case, there is no differences between the Latina shape of stone built or brick built. They use the different materials, whatever material is available. Stone is not available here. And I think there is no patrons there. In the end of the Palos are mainly interested in doing the monastery than making the temples. So in that case, they may not patronize. I think that may be the cause, one of the causes that they are not giving any financial support to the bringing the stone from the far area, the Khidrapur plateau.
From faraway place, yes.
Faraway places. So, yes. And this by the rivers, they're taking something, but not in a large scale. So instead of that, they're making that, and the terracotta temple. And one thing, the terracotta art was developed. For that reason, the terracotta brick temple, the terracotta is very effective to accommodate the plaques within the brick temple. That is very difficult to accommodate in the stone temple. So it may be a cause. It may be a cause. For that, instead of taking the stone temple, they are interested to build the.
Yeah. The other thing is that it is not just import of material, but also the artisans. If the material available is predominantly clay and terracotta art has developed, the artisans are very good at it.
Yes.
Now, if you just get the stone, you also have to get stone artisans who may not be locally available. So that makes sense. Okay. Yes. So Gopu wants to know, did the Palas have to shift their capital around a lot? The territory seems to have increased or decreased dramatically. How did the wars affect the temple building or their locations?
This disturbance is very much there. Some revolt was there, the revolt was there. So disturbance was very much there. So they shifted again and again their capitals, and it hampered their artistic activities also. That's why instead of architectural activities, they're mainly doing the very on a 3-4 feet height, or mostly 2 or 3 feet height sculptural art. They're mainly interested by doing the sculptures. That's why R.D. Banerjee told that Eastern Indian school of medieval sculpture. He is not talking about the architecture, because sculpture is important, and sculpture is more than the architectural activities. So it may be the shifting of capital. It is easier for that. Maybe the case.
The other thing that you point, I mean, the 5 types of the architecture. You talked about the Chaitya Garbha Deol.
Yes, yes.
Is it really, can you say it is unique to the Eastern architecture? In a sense, wherever you go, there are these niches, the koshtas, which are almost invariably structured as a complete prasada, right? It is a temple by itself. So can you say that, it is a sort of a distinct version that is available at the East? Particularly, you talked about the Chaitya Garbha Deol and Chaitya Guha Garbha Deol. What is the difference? What is the uniqueness? Why should it even be called as a separate version?
This is, I have discussed in my PhD thesis and also in the book of architectural motifs in Eastern India, that it is a separate type of architecture, and it is unique in the Palushana period and also in the Eastern Indian, because that we are getting the information that Chaitya Garbha Sthita and Chaitya Guha Garbha Sthita, Marichi, Chaitya Guha Garbha Sthita Marichi. This word we are getting from the Sadhanmala. So it is in the very much text, and
it is in the, you are saying it is, this word is mentioned in the text itself.
Yes, textual reference are there, and only in the case of Marichi, and in the sculptural evidence we are getting in the very few of that Parna Shabari and Ushnisha Bija, 1 or 2 examples are there, but most of the cases the Marichis are there. So I have shown you all the pictures of Marichi, and there is a formation of this curvilinear, and above that the finial portion is there, and this banner, this kalasha, or any dhaja is above that. So in that case, I have identified that this is definitely Chaitya Garbha, and it is Guha Garbha. And one thing, if I see the sculpture from the directly in front of the sculpture we are standing, we can see that the depth of the sculpture, it is almost inside the Guha, and that is, we can recollect the Chaitya Guha. Chaitya Guha is a Guha Garbha. That's why maybe, I don't know why the Sadhanmala and not the Sadhanmala, that is Karandya Buha Sutra is another text of the Palushana period. There also it was written that Chaitya Guha Garbha Sthita Marichi. So in that case, we can differentiate that this is a separate type of architecture, and this was not mentioned by the S.K. Saraswati. I have included this on the basis of Sadhanamala.
So these texts, the Sadhanamala, these are basically.
He has not mentioned, but he has shown these examples in his book Tantrayana Art. There he has written separately that it is a Chaitya Guha Garbha Sthita. That word is there, but he has not categorized this temple formation. So that I have done.
Okay. Now the text that you talk about, Sadhanamala, is it a Vastu Shastra text, Shilpa Shastra text? What text is this?
No. This is a mainly iconographic text. And
okay.
Iconographic references are there. And in the case of iconography, it is there, mentioned there, but not in the case of architecture. We are not getting this.
Okay.
Chaitya Guha Garbha.
Interesting. So as an iconographic text, is it does it cover Hindu and Buddhist icons all together, or it's just specific?
No, it is only Buddhist. Only Buddhist.
Only
Sadhanmala is only Buddhist iconography.
I see. Interesting. Okay.
And we are getting this only in the Buddhist sculptures. So I related this that.
Are they not available at all in the Hindu?
No, not at all.
I see. Okay.
Only mainly in the Marichi, and just I have a plan to study on Marichi sculptures later on. That what is there any?
Only Marichi sculptures. It is not available for other Buddhist icons.
Only I got it in the one is Parnashabari image and one is Ushnisha Vijaya. These two are also Mahajana pantheon goddesses. And one thing, they are mainly for goddesses, not for the male deity.
I see.
It is interesting.
This is really interesting.
All these very rare things we are getting from this Shadan Mala text. So I have gone through the Shadan Mala, but only 2 words are there. But why the Marichi is in the Chaitya Guha Garbho and Chaitya Garbho? These 2 terminologies has been used for these, and that I have to find out in future.
The word, the Marichi. Marichi is also a rishi who comes in the Brahmanical Hindu tradition as well, right? So, but it has a totally different sense in the Buddhist tradition.
No, Marichi is a female goddess, the Buddhist tradition, and like almost our Shaurya deity, he is going by a chariot, and that is driven by 7 boars.
7 horses, is it?
Not horses. Horses is in the case of Surya, sun god, and in the Marichi is a boar. Boar.
Okay. Wild boars. Okay. Okay. Interesting. I don't think we have. I can't recollect having seen that kind of an iconographic image of Marichi being drawn in a horse. Drawn in a chariot with 7 boars. So this is okay. I should look around for something like this. Yes. So all of this is basically part of your Vajrayana development. And all of this happened around the 9th century, 7th to 9th century kind of a period.
Yes, 7th and 11th century also. Before the advent of the Senas, because Senas are mainly believed on Brahmanical religion, and in that period, more Brahmanical icons were developed.
Okay.
And one thing interesting, I can say that in the somebody is telling that Marichi is driven by a chariot, so it is a part of chariot. It looks like the curvilinear.
Yeah. So
but
yeah, exactly.
It's not that. But it is not that, because on the chariot we should not get, but we should not usually getting that. Above that there is a formation of griba, that is in the part of architecture, that on the mastaka portion, and above that finial and the banner is the wavy silky banner is there. So that we are getting in the case of architecture, and it may be, that's why I am telling that it's a cave or monolithic architecture may be there, and it, and they are already Vajrayana pantheon, so they may be resided in the inside the Guha or Guha Garbho. Maybe this is my speculation. I don't know. I want to, but there is no single book on Marichi. It is interesting. So I have to go through the detail. It is my dream that I will go to find out this.
You may find a hill somewhere where there's a shrine which is hidden, and you are probably going to find one like that for Marichi. Interesting. I mean, it's something.
If you get any information in future anywhere from or any other speakers, so please send me that about Marichi. I'm really interested.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you very much for an excellent overview of things that we can see in the Eastern India, and my best wishes to you for your research work, books, and everything else which have enriched us substantially. Let me invite Kishore to close the proceedings. Over to you, Kishore.
Thank you, Badri. Thank you, Dr. Sudeepa. A very interesting lecture, and opening our eyes to places that are less familiar or perhaps unfamiliar to a lot of us here down south. So thank you very much. So with that, we come to the end of today's morning programs. Just to recap, we have 4 lectures today, out of which we have 2 lectures coming up in the evening. So evening we have 2 lectures. The first one by Dr. Ajit Kumar on the temples in Kerala, and followed by at 7:30 p.m. by Dr. Sushmita Sen on the art of the Solankis, which includes the temples and stepples from the western part of India. So do join us once again at 6 p.m. today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, to Dr. Badri.